Hey everybody, how's everybody doing tonight? Hopefully everybody's having a great evening, or had a great day, depending on where you are. Welcome everybody. Pickle Thursday, welcome. Red, welcome. Robert, welcome back. No, you guys heard Mona making sounds, and yes, you heard my Sealy squeaking around. How's it going, Mohammed? Welcome. Like I said, hopefully everybody's had a great day today. David, welcome. I'm doing pretty good. No complaints. You know, anytime you're just chilling out at home all day on a Saturday, mostly just doing work for the channel, I can't really complain. It's, you know, it's pretty chill at least. It's good. Good morning from India. Nice. Have you forgot, did I ever C2 my Mona yet, Triforce Rich? No, sadly, it has not happened. She is still C1. One of these days, maybe? Now that we know that they're going to have a Kuching banner, it has kind of renewed my hope that they will also be following through in the future with a Mona banner. That would be awesome. I'm really hoping that they do that, at which point I'll probably push her to at least C2. But seeing as how she's my primary DPS, I could see pushing her up a little bit further than that, at least to C3 for that increase in Stellaris. I suppose, let's see, when any party member attacks an opponent affected by an omen, their crit rate is increased by 15%. I don't know if that one's super useful. It's not bad or anything, but Mirror Reflection of Doom being upgraded isn't bad. And upon entering Illusory Torrent, that's her dash. One again, 60% increase of damage to her next charged attack. Okay, that's not bad. I mean, that basically makes her even more powerful during her, or, you know, coming straight out of dodging. So, I don't know if I'd press her to C6 or not, but I certainly wouldn't complain if I got her there. But one of these days, who knows? It'll take a long time, probably, before my Mona's ever, you know, particularly high in constellation level, but, you know, we'll get her there. We will get her there. Playing Genshin while having the stream. It's a Saturday routine now. Nice. Well, I'm glad to have you for it, Mohammed. Thank you. Haneen, welcome. No, you're not late. I started kind of a new thing today where I'm hoping to be able to continue to do it this way, but basically I'll start the stream about 10 minutes before it's due to actually start. That way it gives everybody a little time to file in, and I can, you know, actually set up the stream properly so I don't have to do it after the stream has already began. And this way it's less intrusive to you all, and there's, you know, like an actual, like a waiting window. You kind of have a better idea of when it's going to start, that kind of thing as well. So that's okay though, you'll pull for her for sure, and we'll have a great moment. You're no Mona main, but you hear C2 is a huge boost as a primary DPS. Yeah, it is. I have had some experience using it at points in the past, and yeah, it was really useful. It definitely makes her really useful. Gemma, you got Ganyu and Mona in less than 70 pulls. Nice. That's that is definitely a feat. You definitely can't complain about that. You've been waiting for Mona rate up since September 28th. Yes, since release day. Yeah, for sure. Having got her at 4 days in, I was like, I felt blessed, because those first 3 days, like having already had experience playing the character and then not having her, I knew what I didn't have, and it was terrible. Especially anytime I had to go swimming to get to something. Oh, it was killing me. Tavot Historia, how is World Level 8 going for you? Would you recommend ascending to it for reasons other than the drop rates? Well, Ron, there is one trick about World Level 8, which is you don't get to choose whether or not you actually ascend to it. It's not like, I think it was 35-45 where you had to complete a dungeon in order to bump up to it. You just automatically push into it. So you don't really get a choice, but it's not that much worse. Like, from what I've seen so far, it really has not been that much more challenging. The enemies do noticeably hit harder, but I haven't noticed that much of a difference in my damage production against them. So I really don't think that it's that big of a deal. Like, if you have been pressing forward with your character progression in a relatively focused way, like you've chosen and focused on probably 2 parties with 1 primary DPS and several characters who are developed to slightly lesser degree around those. And then you go into world level 8, like, yeah, you'll probably be fine. Just so long as you haven't spread yourself too thin, you probably won't have any issues. Welcome, Lunacy. Mona raid up. Oh, yeah, that would be the dream. I'm still really, really hoping that does, in fact, end up happening at some point in the future. But, we dare to dream. I did finally get my Ganyu to 90 and her weapon. This is an enemy that I feel like, well, no, I just finally got a crit on him, so I don't know. I'm just having that same problem as usual, where anything less than 50% crit is still 0% for some reason. But yeah, I did finally get my Ganyu to level 90, as well as her weapon to level 90. So she's now sitting at 2664 attack, but that's keeping in mind she's in a vaporized pyro resonance comp, which does boost her attack by a good amount. So that helps a lot. I am still planning to replace 2 of her cryo pieces with gladiator pieces, but I haven't gotten to that yet. It's just going to take me a little while. Right now, my primary build focus is fixing up my Kuching, because she's still, trying to claw her way up. She got sidelined by Ganyu's release. I do plan on getting Xiao, but I probably won't be focusing on building him right away. I'll get around to it for sure. I definitely think that he's going to be an interesting character to build. I think that he'll fill in some good party opportunities, but I'm still not positive based on kind of what we know about him, what role he's going to be best for. I think that there's reasonable thought that suggests that he could be a primary DPS, which would make sense, but at the same time, he's not capable of reacting with other characters for reactions, because he can, but they're swirls. So if you're building him as a primary DPS, the swirls themselves will not hit for very much. So that is something that's worth keeping in mind as well. You kind of have to be, mindful of all of these different aspects when you're considering the role for a character like Xiao. Xiao, I keep saying that wrong. But yeah, I mean, it's going to depend on how I feel best to use him. He might be usable. Like, I think it's likely, like with any Animo character, you could also set them up as a buffer of sorts, putting him in Viridescent Venerer, to where he'll, debuff the enemies for you, but also provide good supportive secondary damage. So, like, for instance, if you set him up with Viridescent Venerer with where he's your primary DPS, but you have a secondary DPS character like Child, you could go ahead and, while you're en route to the character, shoot them with a Child arrow or something to get them wet, swap to Xiao to reduce their resistance. You're doing damage in that downtime between Child's uptime for his E. So if it's up, you do that setup, you tear him up while his E is ready. As soon as it's down, you just swap back to Xiao and produce, stable DPS through that means instead. And I think that might be a good way to make use of that character. And that may be a route that I pursue, but I'm not sure yet that is something I want to do. It'll just depend. I mean, Animo characters are really, I feel like they're kind of meant to work in your party kind of in a similar way to what Geo characters are meant to function as, where they kind of come in and they fill in a kind of a sub-support role. Even Zhongli, built as a primary DPS, fills in more of a, he fills in a sub-support role as well as a primary, because he's, giving shields out the whole time. So it really makes his role a little bit more flexible than some. It's complicated though, so we'll see kind of how that works. Like I said, he won't be, Xiao will not be one of my focus characters to build, at least not until I finish building Kuching. He will follow after that, so it'll probably be 2-3 weeks before I really get into building him. But the good news about that is that I do know I want to be able to utilize his elemental burst a lot, because that's one of the major functions of his kit. And I do already have this weapon with, you know, it's an energy recharge 5-star weapon with really great add-on bonus. So I think this is going to be the weapon that I put on him. I know that like he's pictured as having the primordial Jadewing Spear. It's his weapon, but I don't know based on his kit that it's actually going to be the best weapon for him or not yet. I certainly will try both. I'm just not sure for sure, you know, absolutely certain which direction I really want to lean with that one at this time. Well, but like I said, we'll see. On his E ability, will Swirl keep that in? Wait, hold on. Only his E ability will Swirl. Yeah, so we don't know. Yeah, it doesn't appear like his Elemental Burst, at least not from CBT2, will generate, you know, those swirls. So you would not get the Viridescent Venerer effects from his Elemental Burst. Or at least that's not how it worked in CBT2. We don't know for sure if that is still in effect, but I would suspect that it probably is. I'm sure that they built it that way intentionally as, you know, kind of a balancing factor to stop the character from being, you know, completely busted. But, you know, we'll see for sure once it actually does release. Kind of what their long-term, you know, development ended up being for that character and what his full usage will be. But that said, we, you know, I want to say he had one, like at least I think in CBT2, one of his constellations included an additional charge of his E, and I think it already has two, so I think it boosts to 3. So that's big as well. And that gives you 3 charges of, you know, Venerer if you're you know, building the character in that focus, which is still going to be extremely useful. That still works out nicely. Lunacy, what is my Klee's attack damage? Does it also sit above 2,000 like Ganyu? Yeah, I think so. I gotta check. No, it's close to 2,000, but honestly, my Klee is underdeveloped right now. She's still not been, like, the focus of my team. I've got this artifact here that's goofy and underdeveloped. And really, at this point, I just need to get rid of it. I'm actually planning to put Lava Walker on her. I just haven't had the materials on hand to start actually building it up. I've got a few pieces of it that are good, but I just don't have what I need to actually flesh it out. And as soon as I do, I will start swapping things up, because I'm planning to swap her to 4-piece Lava Walker, or possibly, if not 4-piece Lava Walker, then 2-piece Witch, 2-piece Gladiator. But I don't know. It kind of all depends on how things go and how I continue to pull artifacts from the Crimson Witch domain, which I actually am going to farm a little bit, I think, again, tonight. Because that's been kind of my focus. But I might actually go back into the Thunder Soother domain, because I'm trying to get a replacement for this artifact. I want a 5-star one, so that I have, you know, full 5-star artifacts for my Keqing before I start, you know, trying to lean into finishing her build. Right now, only one of her artifacts are completely enhanced as well, so I've still got a long way to go on her as well. But Klee will get there. I will get her built up more. She doesn't do bad damage even as she sits now, though. I'm not dissatisfied with it, and I think a big part of that is because I did level up some of her main abilities, especially Jumpty Dumpty, because that's the one that I use the most. Jumpy Dumpty is pretty important, so I do need to get in there and farm her books a little bit more, these freedom books, so that I can get Jumpy Dumpty leveled up to 10, and especially since I got a couple more of these when I killed Andurius this week. So that'll be pretty important to continue pressing with. What set am I using on Ganyu? I'm using the 4-piece Cryo Blizzard Strayer set, I should say. Am I going to pull on the Keqing banner to get Constellation? I have her at C1 now. I do think I may try to get her at least to... Let's see. I think it's... Which one is it? This one is for her Elemental Burst. Oh, man. So, sadly, I think the constellation I would want the most for Keqing is at C5, because that's the one that's going to increase the the power of Stellar Restoration, which is, you know, where most of her real damage comes from. So I don't know if I will press hard for that or not. Probably not. I might try to get her at C2 and then kind of let it go from there. But we'll see. It's unlikely that I will completely pass on it. I'll probably try to at least get one constellation out of that banner. But I'm more likely, like I would be much more likely to press hard for, additional constellations for Mona or for Kamisato Ayaka at some point in the future whenever she releases. Characters like that, I think I would be more likely to pull for full, or for a lot more constellations, that kind of thing. But we'll kind of see. We're kind of still a long ways out from some of that stuff, obviously. Oh, well, he got exploded. So yeah, I don't really think World Level 8 has added that much more challenge to the world. Even in Dragonspine, I haven't really found that much more issue, although since I finished most of the content in Dragonspine, I don't head out there that much. But I haven't really found that much more challenge with anything out there so far anyways, so it really hasn't been that big a deal. At least not yet. I will say that Andreas did seem a little harder when I fought him in World Level 8. That did seem a little bit more challenging. Storm Terror was not a big deal. Ganyu makes such quick work of him anyways. It's just kind of a joke how, like, if you guys have not seen Storm Terror killed by Ganyu, it's kind of silly how easy it is. It's crazy. If you guys would be interested in seeing what a built Ganyu can do to even a World Level 8 Storm Terror, type an F in chat. I'll go and do it for fun. I can't claim a reward, but I can definitely give you an example of what happens. So yeah, I can definitely do that if it's something everybody wants to see. Is Lava Walker better for Klee versus Crimson? So 4-piece Crimson I don't think is a great set option for Klee, just because she's going to be unlikely to easily charge up that element, or to charge up the full stack. So I would say Lava Walker is going to give her much more reliable DPS output than Crimson Witch would. Now, you could make an argument for 2-piece Gladiator and 2-piece Witch instead, and I think that certainly could be viable. But I think if you're planning on having Klee as a full-time on-screen DPS, like primary, then I think the 4-piece Lava Walker would definitely be the way to... Oh, hey, my Skyward Atlas just picked up a bird for me. I like it. That's good stuff. Okay, so you guys definitely want to see the Storm Terror kill with Ganyu. Yeah, I'll go ahead and do that here after I kill this off real quick, because that won't impact that situation. Alright, so now that I kind of cleared this area, I will have to come back because I got to get these rocks over here and this down here, but that's fine. I can go ahead and take care of this Storm Terror thing here real quick. So let me do that. What's the attack numbers preferably for Ganyu? Mine is currently at 2600. I am kind of like, I'm more than likely going to continue trying to farm equipment for Ganyu so that I can swap her to 2-piece Cryo, 2-piece Gladiator, and push, and hopefully at the same time get her crit rate stabilized without Cryo set at 50%-ish, in the same vein as which I have my Mona in. That way I can hopefully get Ganyu a little bit closer to 3k attack. I think that will make her even more potent than she is now, and it would be even more so if I could get her crit damage to increase a little bit more. That would be really nice too. Have I seen that Ganyu one-shot Dvalin clip? Muhammad, I haven't seen that. I definitely... I've seen... Oh, I totally whiffed the first one. I've definitely seen it get close. Oh, that shot didn't even... Oh, that's because he transferred before the Frost Flake went up. Well, I'll get him on the next pass. So pretty much as soon as the Frost Flake goes up, his white shield just gets exploded. Oh, he went above me. That's not okay. And there it is. And I'll just throw that down too. And then you pretty much just pop him. So long as you get a couple of crits, usually he doesn't even get back up. I want to say the last few times I've done this, I've killed him before he ever got an opportunity to get back up, and he still didn't get a chance to get back up. So I only crit about, I don't know, maybe a third of those hits. He still didn't get a chance to get back up. One round, one and done. Dvalin is officially a joke when you fight him with Ganyu. So if I could get more crit damage for it, it would probably be even faster. If I could get more stable crit rate without being dependent on already having a frozen status on it, that would also improve that. So we'll kind of see how that ends up going. They can't nerf characters because of various laws. Yeah, I do think that they could run into issues nerfing characters that people pay money for. So I think that's something that they're definitely trying to avoid. And honestly, you know, if you look at gaming as a whole, I think a lot of companies are starting to lean that way, to where, you know, if their platform and, you know, kind of revolves around you investing a good amount of money in the game as you continue to play it, and you're regularly being subjected to nerfs, all you do is alienate your player base. So a lot of, you know, game makers are getting to this point where they're like, hey, maybe we shouldn't do that. This doesn't seem like a great idea. Yeah, and I recently, even a game that I've played for many years at this point, although I don't really get to play it so much anymore, is Black Desert Online, and that game has been rife with issues where they would nerf the characters, but not until another one comes out, which is kind of frustrating because it's very clear that the intent was to keep the character's power level high until a new character is out, and then they nerf it and push you into the next one, so you got to spend money on setting that character up too. It's pretty transparent and irritating, but the publisher is stepping down, or has been, I guess, released, and the actual like game developers are now taking over. And one of the promises that they've made is to no longer nerf characters, but rather buff the ones that need work. So that's really a great platform for them to start with. And most people were pretty happy about that announcement. And I definitely understand why they would do that. Because, you know, constantly nerfing characters, like I said, it just alienates people. And, you know, you get accustomed to a certain power level on a character, and then all of a sudden it's not there anymore. It just sets you up for all kinds of problems, and then you end up in a lot of trouble. One more. There we go. Huh. Oh, he got bounced a lot. Was that all three? I feel like one's still alive. Where'd he go? Where'd he go? Oh, he's down there affected with the omen. That's what happened to him. He's just sitting awkwardly off the screen. One of them got exploded away, and I didn't even get to loot him. Where did he go? Okay, there it is. Okay, good. I thought I was going to lose that loot for a second. Bro, if they start nerfing units, you're quitting? Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of people would do. That would definitely be a problem. Lunacy, you rolled for Albedo, now you can't have Ganyu. Oof. I mean, Albedo's a great character, though. Really, if you had to... Like, if say for instance I was asked to discuss like the one change I would make to this party, it would be to put Albedo in it. But the sad thing is I can't have Mona and Ganyu and Pyro Resonance and Albedo obviously in the same party. So it would be really hard for me to make that swap. But one of the great news is that Albedo is a character that you can drop in any team, and he just makes it better. And not by a little bit, by a lot. So, I mean, you're not really in a bad spot for having Albedo. Sure, Ganyu makes certain content, like jokes, easy, but it's not to say that having Albedo doesn't kind of have the same effect. I mean, it's on a different level. Ganyu doesn't really help with, say, the domain, the Heart of Depth domain at the peak of Vindagnir. He doesn't really, or she doesn't really help with that. Albedo helps with that a lot, though. So, you know, these are instances where one character is superior to another. It's not to say that Ganyu is going to help you, you know, clear 100% of the content of the game and it will make it all jokes easy every time. Like, nah, it doesn't really work that way. So that's one thing to keep in mind too. Yeah, would it be nice to have, you know, in theory, every character yeah. And like that's pretty much what my goal is, although my goal is to do that mostly with low constellation levels just so that I have them for lore content opportunities. But it does give me good diversity even at low constellation levels and allows me to mess with lots of different team concepts, and that's always nice. So I really can't complain about that. As you've said for the 1,000th time, they can't nerf characters. Yeah, and they pretty much can't. I think they know that would bring a lot of trouble. I mean, but other game developers do it. I don't know what the laws are in China though. I don't know if China has laws about not nerfing characters. So that would be probably a major factor as well. But I'm not really sure how all that works in the long run of things. Wonder if we get a PvP mode Pigeon. I kind of don't think so, because that opens up a whole new can of worms, right? Because then they have to start, balancing the characters for player versus player content, and that could get into this whole issue again of, nerfing and balancing characters, as well as the possibility of, well, the game just becomes objectively pay to win at that point. Like, even right now, I mean, one could make that argument, but it's PvE content, and we're not really against anybody. So right now, it doesn't really matter. But if there were to be PvP content, then people could make that argument and largely be, correct. You said Albedo is awesome. Yes, he is, and he's a really, really good character. And he really does make any party you plop him in better than a party that he's not in. Like I said, the only change I would make to this party would be to drop Albedo in it, but I have to give up either Mona or my Vaporize reaction or Ganyu in order to do that. And I right now don't really need to do that because Ganyu can kind of stand on her own. For really good damage in this comp. I get melt opportunities. Mona's really great if things get dicey, and Stellaris is just ridiculous anyways, so it's just a very beneficial comp for me to continue to run with right now. So I don't really need to make those changes, but I really do like having Albedo, and he'll definitely remain a mainstay of my Zhongli comp for the foreseeable future. Oh, I did not get the weak point on that one. Okay, well, not that big a deal. I'll just keep backing up from this. Just lure them all into the funnel.
We're way behind schedule.
This is the only manageable way, usually, to effectively delete these guys, is to just kind of lure them all into a goofy funnel so that they can't actually chase you down. But it works out nice, though. And then once a few of them are down, then it's not really so much of an issue anymore. I'm trying to let that one get a little closer, and now I can just use a Stellaris. Oh, ow. Well, that kind of hurt. Oh, he started spinning. Get out of here with that. Yeah, and this is why I don't really think that World Level 8 is much more difficult. For instance, when I think that the jump from World Level 6 to 7 was worse. Because when I jumped from 6 to 7, my Mona party couldn't even really fight these enemies anymore. And while, Ganyu might be giving a little bit of an unfair case to it, my Zhongli party really was the only way I could get through fighting all of these at the same time. Or if I dropped Venti into my Mona party, that also made my Mona party capable of completing it. But that's just because an archer was present, but it was not nearly as easy as it is with the setup I have now. Let's be real, I'll C6 Mona during her banner, then I'll keep pulling her after and cry. I mean, maybe. Reese Cypher, morning, how's it going? Welcome. China has a law for horror games? I didn't know they had laws for that. I do know that they have some laws for games, and for instance, things like the resin system exist in this game, and were developed, I think, first in China to kind of reduce people having long, unhealthy gaming sessions. They have much more laws of kind of developed, as I understand it, to kind of reduce people from over gaming. The difference between pay to win and free to play will be much more distinct. Yeah, for sure. PvP in a game like this where you pretty much are, I don't want to say forced to invest money in the game because you're not, but if you want to be competitive, you would definitely be. And so it's probably best that they don't introduce PvP content in this game for that reason. And I think they know that. Games like, for instance, Epic 7, which does have a PvP mode, although you're not actively playing against them one-to-one. You're playing against an AI version of somebody else's team comp. Oh god, he keeps resetting. But because it's also a gacha game, like it's just objectively pay to win, and anybody who's spent lots of money in that game, you'll never beat them. You just won't. And honestly, really the only people who really hard lean into the PvP content in that game are the ones who have spent a lot of money on it. So it's pretty miserable to try to get yourself in it and remain established and successful beyond a certain point. So that gets kind of frustrating. Albedo E and Ganyu Alt are the same size and work together. Yeah, I've definitely tried them out together, and it's definitely really nasty. The only kind of thing that holds that combination back, was that a... No. The only thing that kind of holds that combination back is just the fact that Albedo's blossoms can only ping every 2 seconds, yeah. So it kind of prevents it from being more successful than it would otherwise be. You ascend, yeah, you do. You automatically ascend to world level 8 when you hit 55. Am I not grinding for friendship XP for other characters? Yeah, I am. So whenever I do my friendship level upgrades every day, I try to accept them specifically with characters that need it, like for Ganyu, Diluc. I just got Klee to 10 yesterday, I think. Zhongli is 8, almost 9. Albedo's getting there. Jean, I try not to accept it with her. Venti is a little over 6. Official's a little over 8. Beidou is 8. Xinyan's 8. Yeah, I try to spread it out a bit, and then other characters that I really haven't invested in, which are all the characters to the right of Xinyan, they really don't have that much. I do have some on Ningguang. She's at 4, almost 5. But everybody else is pretty underdeveloped in friendship, just because I haven't had the need to press their friendship levels up just yet, and I opened up contribution opportunities over on my Discord for people to submit character stories to me so that I still have access to them as I need. Let's see. What do we know about alchemy and its different types? Like, oh god, it just scrolled off the screen. Hang on. I gotta go back and try to scroll up. What do we know about alchemy and its different types, like the Kenrea version and biochemical creation? So we don't really know a whole lot about how all of the different types of alchemy in the Genshin Impact world work at the moment. There's still a lot that has to be kind of explained to us about that. I hope that we're obviously going to get back more into it, but outside of the fact that characters like Rheindotter and Gold and Albedo exist, and that Albedo may or may not be the creation of Rheindotter, and Rheindotter may or may not be Gold, we don't really know much about what their powers make them capable of. We have seen that Albedo can generate life from paintings. He can, like his little animation, he just like grabs a branch and forces life into it and it gets bigger. So there's definitely some interesting things that can be generated as a result of their powers. But we don't really know much else currently about what they're actually capable of producing full on. Oh, I probably shouldn't be doing that. Ganyu's going to take a lot of damage. Nope. It should be alright. Well, she'll live anyways. Okay, well, now I gotta kill these two mostly without Ganyu. That's fine. That's right, I forget I usually don't use Ganyu in this dungeon until I get to this part. That way, she doesn't take a whole bunch of damage from these enemies due to the ley line disorder here. Oh, they both teleported really far away. Yeah, there we go. So this is something that's really annoying about this particular domain, is whenever you hit them with Stellaris, they just like get glitched to under the ground, and you don't get a good Stellaris connection. It completely ruins like a large portion of the damage that you should be getting from it. See, like she went under the ground, you get like a non-damage, like low non-crit or something. Like I've never seen it crit when they go underground. It bugs out the whole thing. I don't know what's going on with that. I hope they fix it soon though. They did fix, there was an issue earlier, shortly after the game released, where if you used Stellaris on, I think it was cryo whopper flowers, they would just float awkwardly in the air and you wouldn't even be able to hit them. And that was really, really annoying. Crit damage, HP defense. It could be worse. Could be better, but could be worse. I need to go get a couple of condensed resin here really quick. Ever play on mobile? You started because you got called to DC. You hate it. You miss your controller and 140 hertz monitor. How about you? So I have played it, Zero, on my phone. I try not to unless I have to, just because the PC experience is so much better. But we did hear recently that they are adding, I think in 1.3, controller support to the mobile version. So if you have a controller that you're able to connect to your phone, then you will still be able to play the game on a controller at the very least. And that should help out a lot with that that particular aspect of the issue. And I mean, and Genshin Impact can't run it at 140 frames per second anyways, because it's like auto capped at 60 frames, which is kind of irritating. But you know, it is what it is. I'm sure they had their reasons for capping it. I wish they didn't, and I hope at some point they at least increase it to 120. But for now, you know, I'll take it. Wish they revise elemental or environmental effects such as burning grass and use a temperature bar so that cares take a while before taking damage. Would be way more interesting than just burning and nerfing characters. Yeah, I could see that. It would be kind of an effect similar to sheer cold, to where you start taking damage the longer you stay in it. I don't know if that's necessarily more realistic though, the more I think about it. Because, you know, if you kind of think about like the greater impact of that, you can't just stand in fire realistically, right? Like you will immediately be burned. You know, like you can stand for a certain period of time over a source of heat, but you can't necessarily stand directly over a fire because that will just burn you. So I think I need to swap Kalia and Venti. Their positions are gonna mess me up if I leave them like that. There we go. As a continuation of the alchemy question, what do we know of the divine arts as a whole, and what could other types be besides alchemy and astrology? Huh. Well, that's a good question. I think as far as like the whole like idea of the divine arts, the only thing I can think of that may still pop its head up is going to be, and I discussed this in my theory that I'm working on right now, where the idea, it's not really magic, it's science comes into play, because there's, you know, if you really pay attention to some of the aspects that were introduced to us in Dragonspine, we have this whole concept of godless kingdoms and, you know, kind of like a more atheist approach to the world of Tavot, and how like math and science, you know, would bring light to a better life to the people in Tavot from a certain point of view. And so I think like math and sciences would be the other aspect of that. And it's one of those things that's not really discussed much in what we've seen now, but it has been touched on in certain other aspects. So for instance, and I don't think I've seen anybody else really talk about it. And you know, since you guys are here in my stream, I'll just go ahead and talk a little bit about it. But one of the things that's on the fresco, the three-sided fresco in Dragonspine, is the image of the Outlander, I think it's in Moonlauker holding out a what looks to be an atomic whirl out to the subjects of Dragonspine. But it's not actually an atomic whirl, it's open at the bottom, which is the symbol that the American Atheist Society uses as their symbol for the search for truth and knowledge and science. And so, like, it's as if he was offering knowledge to the people of the mountain, and that's what resulted in them being smited by the gods. So that's, I think, one of the other, like, it's not a divine art, but it's another mysterious art. But that specific one got the ancients deleted basically from Tavot in general. So this is something I'm going really a pretty deep dive into in my theory video that I'm currently working on, that I hope I will have out next week sometime. But I'm like 20 plus hours into writing the script and it's still not done. So I've got a lot of work to do. I've got some revisions to make on it after I do that, because I never go into the recording process without having, a round or two of revisions to make sure everything is cohesive. So it's going to take me a little bit of time to get it, but I'm hoping it will be ready for this week. All right, so let's start this run. I'm just going to go ahead and throw a Venti ult to that immediately. Oh yeah, Venti definitely makes this particular domain a little bit more fun. Just reduces all of their resistance and holds them up for a little while. It's so entertaining just to watch them float like that. And then for these two, I can just, throw a Mona lure on the ground, force them into non-electro status, and then bomb them with Ganyu rather. And usually it's not too big of a deal. I don't take as much of the free damage that I would otherwise, which is always nice. I'll throw down a Stellaris as well. Yeah, Venti definitely makes this domain so much less complicated. Yeah, that one survived. Oh, nope. Come on. Kill her before she gets that thing. She got it charged with like 1 health left. That is so irritating. Fine. I'll just take a little damage from it. I don't care. Oh, I don't know which aspect of that killed her, but I don't care. Whatever. She dead. Is there anything I'm excited about in 1.3? Oh, so many things. I mean, for one, just new content and to see where they press the story. Learning more about the Yakshas should be really interesting as well. Beta tester, indeed. Prototypes have become but a rumor at this point. Yeah, I mean, you definitely don't get them a lot. Even in World Level 8, I didn't get any this... Oh, wait, I did get one this week. I did get a prototype this week. I finally got a prototype catalyst this week and used it to make the Frostbearer catalyst, because I had been wanting to make one of those for a little while. I'm not going to build it yet, but I did want to have one. HP attack, crit damage, no crit rate, it's defense. Meh. Oh, and Elemental Mastery on this one, but with good substats, so also meh, so that's all fodder. And another pass. Do I play Honkai Impact 3? Everyone thinks there's a shared universe or multiverse or pocket verse. You don't know. You didn't get that far. So, Zero, yeah, I have played Honkai Impact 3. I haven't played it a lot, but I have played it some. And there are definitely some key aspects between the two games that appear to be intentionally related. There's also a interview with the developers of the game where they talked about the fact that Genshin Impact and Honkai Impact are two leaves on the same tree. Or they're different leaves on the same tree, I think is the way they actually worded it. It's kind of suggesting that it is basically like a multiverse type scenario, which is great, really. I mean, we're now living in like this Marvel universe world where, if you have these opportunities to have multiverses and worlds colliding and, using the lore from one game and another, it allows you to generate a much denser or much more densely packed story with a lot more threads in it than it would otherwise have. So to me, I'm excited to see what they could do with that, and I really do hope that that ends up panning out more. I kind of messed up that. Whatever, it's not too bad. One of them still died, so I'll take it. Come on. These freaking little flies. Yeah, okay, go. She didn't get her shield at least, so that was better. I stood there at the beginning for a little bit and still killed that one pretty quick. Zhao is in constant pain, so I guess the struggling sounding voice is intentional. Yeah, he does sound like he's in pain too, doesn't he? He sounds like... his whole voice sounds like he's in a continual state of grunting. It does kind of make sense, and his past has been nothing but tragic as well. Tatsuki, why not stream on Twitch? It's just not a platform that I've really messed with a whole lot yet. I might actually at some point in the near future start messing with dual streaming to where I'm streaming on both platforms at the same time. But I just right now I just haven't wanted to like spread myself too thin into doing that. But I may start doing that. But right now my focus is on making sure that I keep my eye on the ball, and that's to develop my YouTube channel right now. So, I mean, obviously, it couldn't really hurt me if I just simulcast on Twitch at the same time. And like I said, it may be something that I do in the future, because I may just be, you know, limiting my audience by not doing that as well. But I want to make sure I'm in a good spot before I do that. And there's some things that I need to accomplish with my YouTube channel, I think, before I start doing that. So let's see what these are. An attack. Attack 1, energy, recharge, HP. I mean, if it picks up crit rate, maybe. And then an attack circlet with bad substats. I mean, attack circlets aren't really all that useful anyways. So, kind of struck out on that one, but whatever. At least I got some good fodder for enhancing the artifacts that I do have. So we'll see. It's sad that Sucrose's ult doesn't make heavy enemies airborne like Venti does. So Venti's elemental burst, I think, can only make heavier enemies go airborne if they've been knocked down right beforehand. I don't think it will never be able to pick up things like ruin guards and hunters, stuff like that, or the giant cryo hilichurls, whose names I can't, like Samichurl or something like that. I can't remember their name, but those particular enemies, I don't think it can pick those up. Honkai, Genshin, Evangelion crossover. Yeah, so, I mean, right now, Honkai Impact does have an Evangelion crossover going on where the character Asuka is a playable character, which is pretty cool. I would love to see them do something like that in Genshin Impact at some point in the future where they cross over the Evangelion world. Not Shinji, anybody but Shinji, but anybody else would be pretty cool, especially Asuka. I mean, I think everybody who's spent any kind of time watching Evangelion, you know, would probably agree that that would be a better situation. Rei might be a weirdly creepy option. Not Shinji. Just not Shinji. How would I rank all of the resonances? Huh. So I would say off the top of my head, Pyro, Geo, Animo, Cryo. And then all of the others are basically non-factor to me. I really don't like the other ones. And which ones you are available to you are going to obviously be based on the characters that you have available to you, or the team, or the, you know, from the team comps and weapons that you have based on the roles that you want to try to fit them in. These are concepts that I explored in my, you know, recently completed build series. But yeah, so I would definitely say Pyro Resonance is, you know, the highest, most valuable in my eyes. Geo Resonance is quite good. It's getting ready to get a buff, so it'll be even better after that, which will be nice. Animo Resonance is really, really nice. It doesn't add anything to damage, but it does reduce cooldowns, although I think that its cooldown reduction is a little bit forgettable because it's only 5%. But the movement speed and better efficiency for your stamina usage is really nice. And it's one of those things where you can get really, really hooked on that, and then when you don't have it, you feel so slow. it gets a little bit painful when you don't have it and you're used to having it. All you want is to have it back. It's the worst. All right, so I need to take a quick heal, and then I will head to my next spot. There's a mistranslation with Zhongli line about Xiao. It's not really painkillers that he gives. It's antidepressant for the PTSD, and his Chinese voice line, correct me if I'm wrong. So I haven't heard anything about that, but that's interesting. And that would make sense, really, if you think about kind of the way his character is written. I mean, he's seen some stuff. And he keeps humanity at arm's length because of it. He's not really great at interacting with humans now. I think he likes to keep his distance because he's afraid that he'll end up killing somebody, and I think that that's something that he's always worried about. Now you want it to be Shinji? Why? Why would you do that? That's no. Anybody but Shinji. Anybody but Shinji. You love Sucrose, but she doesn't hit the right chord. Yeah, I mean, I think she's a great character. I mean, the only reason I haven't built her thus far is just because I don't need her right now. I'm sure at some point I will find use for her, but that time hasn't come yet. It will. I'm sure I will find a reason to do it. You know, if people request that I start trying to mess with the character or something for content purposes, that kind of thing, maybe I'll do that, but I just haven't gotten around to it at this point, and now it's looking like I'm going to be building Zhao after I finish building Keqing, because I'm not going to sideline Keqing again. I already sidelined her once for Ganyu. I kind of want to do it again. I definitely want to get my Keqing into a usable state. I still need to decide for sure what weapon I'm going to use on her. I think like right now I've got Lion's Roar leveled up to 80 for my Keqing, and I think I need to go ahead and level up the Black Sword as well, because Lion's Roar is only going to work really well on Keqing if she's in a party that's built around her, and that party is built around, say, Pyro Resonance as well. But right now my Mona kind of dominates my Pyro Resonance built characters, so that wouldn't necessarily be like, I would have to basically replace Ganyu with Keqing, and that wouldn't necessarily be a bad way to use her either, and it would allow me to get good use out of Lion's Roar, so long as I'm not putting Mona out first and kind of putting out the Pyro settings that I'm building up, because as soon as you lose that Pyro, then you lose the benefit of the Lion's Roar, and you're just doing normal damage at that point. So you kind of have to be mindful of that stuff too. So if I use Black Sword, it'll kind of fit better into dropping her into any party, which I think would be better for me with Keqing at this time. But I do plan to actually make her a primary DPS for a party at some point. But that probably won't happen until like Kamisato Ayaka comes out or something like that, where I have a bit more options of characters to build around her that are satisfactory. Nope. I thought for sure I was going to dodge that. Come on. Well, whatever. Murderer of birds. Do you watch any other Genshin content creators or seek out lore videos outside of what I've created? So, no, I don't. But there's one important reason why I don't. It's not one of those things where I'm just like, oh, I hate all the... No. Like, I guess there's one other Genshin creator... One or two other Genshin creators that I watch. No English and... It's Eric something, I can't remember the other name in it, but they're not making like lore content videos. The reason why I don't seek out other Genshin like lore related content creation is mostly just because I like to organically research the game for myself, and if I start taking in other people's theories and their point of view, then it could negatively impact my own headcanon for forming theories. And that is something that I don't want to do. I don't want to contaminate the way I think with somebody else's line of thinking. And so that's something I try to very carefully avoid. Yeah. So I haven't, I mean, but like I said, it's not because like I don't like other content creators out there, but I do try to avoid it just for that reason. I don't like to risk contamination at this time. I'm sure in time there will be, some, like, I wouldn't even mind, at some point in time doing some kind of collaborative work with another lore content creator. I think that could be really cool. Because actually I think some of the lore videos for other games that I've watched over the years, like for instance for Zelda franchise, I've watched a lot of lore content videos where they have guest speakers from other YouTube channels on, and it just gives theories, I don't know, something, just like an extra little punch, like there's just like an extra little mysterious or spooky nature about a video where you have more than one voice in it. It adds like a little extra expertise to it, a little extra intrigue. It's something that I've definitely enjoyed. So it's something I would definitely be open to doing at some point in the future. But that's kind of like a different circumstance compared to just watching the content from another creator. As far as, another one of the reasons why I try, I guess, to not watch a whole lot of other Genshin lore content creation is mostly because it may also dissuade me from wanting to create content that I want to make. Because, I might be like, oh, well, they already made this, so maybe I shouldn't do this and I can do something else. But, like, I'd still like to make that content, and I don't necessarily want to dissuade myself from doing that. Just because I kind of know how my own head works. I know that if I see that they've made something that I was planning to make, then I might just be like, oh, well, I guess I won't make that now, and move on to making something else. And that might not be the right choice, because, some people might have been waiting for me to make that, or they were hopeful that I would, even if they've seen that other one. I might feel like it's not going to have the same value that it would have before, because somebody else beat me to the punch, if that makes sense. So I don't know. That's kind of how I feel about that. Hopefully that answers your question. You're very curious about the... I think I missed something there. Red K, somebody said Venti being in the Xiao trailer suggested that Venti was the mysterious dude with the flute who saved Xiao. There might actually be something to that, and I suspect when we get into Xiao's like main story quest that we are going to see Venti again, which will be really great because he's a character I'd like to see a lot more of. And maybe we'll even get to see some interactions between Venti and Zhongli, which I think would be really, really exciting and interesting to explore, just because they seem to have kind of a hilarious relationship as the two oldest remaining Archons in Tavot. And they've both lost their gnosis now, so they have another commonality to bond over at this point, even though they don't seem like they get along super great. Getting good substats but bad main stats is pain. Yeah, that is the worst. I actually have some really good artifacts for sets that I'm trying to farm that have perfect substats. Literally, like, attack, crit damage, crit rate, and energy recharge. And then it's like healing percent. And all you can do is just face palm. Just go ahead and put your hands in your palms and just shake your head. It was so close. It was so close to perfection, and it's just out the window. It's the worst. TH lore-wise, how well do humans stack up against vision users? Those Fatui and treasure hoarders caught me lacking a few times. I think lore-wise, there's not really a comparison. I think, for content for the game, they obviously kind of have to scale the enemies up a little bit to make them more capable of, dealing with you. But I think from a lore standpoint, enemies who are not capable of commanding the enemy or the elements are probably not going to be particularly effective against, actual vision users. I don't think that would be, I don't think that would be very good for them at all. And I don't think that they would be very effective in any meaningful way. And that kind of shows if you look at like characters' reactions to those interactions. How did that miss? In the story after a fight. So, like the story, makes them talk big and then they fight, and like say for instance in the Xingqiu storyline where they find out only after they start fighting him that he has a vision, and that he went easy on them even still, and they all got worked. So, you know, they were all pretty confident, and then they pretty much were like, oh, you only won because you have a vision and all that. So it's one of those things where there's definitely a giant difference in the power capability of vision users versus basic humans in the world of Tavot, and I think that that's by design by the Archons of Tavot, and not just the Archons, rather, but I should say the Overseers in Celestia who oversee the Archons. This is what they wanted. For what purposes, we don't know, but it is seemingly what they want. These are some topics that I'm going to be also getting into in my next theory video as well. I'm really, really, really excited to get that one out. I'm having a lot of fun writing it, and I'm having a lot of fun, like, kind of considering all these moving pieces finally that I've had bouncing around in my head over the last, 6 weeks or so since the last theory video was actually released. So I'm definitely ready to get another one out and ready to share it with you guys. So I really hope that it gets to be this week. I've got several other ideas for content and mostly lore content to follow. I'm not going to be getting into a whole lot of mechanics content, I think, for a little while now, at least not until the Historia scale is completed. And at this point, that will not be impacting my production of lore content at all. So that's good as well. You're always happy to see my input and how you get your conclusions on the lore, even if I see someone else talk about it. Yeah, well, I'm glad to hear that even if I were to double down on some information somebody else already talked about, you'd still like to see mine. So that's reassuring in my own headspace. I appreciate that. Thank you. Sulks in missing most of last stream. Well, the good news, Lunacy, is that, you can replay it. So there is that. You want to see Zhongli scolding drunk Venti? That could happen. Venti is pretty much always drunk. He strikes me as a character who, drinks away his pain, which is sad, really. He, took the form of his friend who died in the Archon War and now drinks his pain away. Like, that's just a very unfortunate, sad existence for a character who's actually like a really good person, such as Barbados. So, oh my god, this bubble! All I could do was just keep running from it. Alright, now you're frozen. Frickin' thing got away from me with that bubble, but no more. Oh, come on. There's one right in front of me. Why does it... Oh my god. Oh, you're just gonna jump in your little bubble and dance and laugh at me while I float there. Let's see how it is. Oh my god, this is kind of weirding me out here. Can't tell. Okay, there's the other one. Shouldn't be a problem now. Just gotta bust this one's bubbles so I can just go ahead and Stellaris. That will make things much easier. Oh, I can accidentally open the menu. There we go. What just happened? That was really awkward. And these guys should be pretty much all toast now. Let me just see if I can kill them both. Nice, that worked. Just went ahead and shoot the water. That's one of the other great things about Gun. You don't even have to shoot the target. You can shoot in between the targets and still get them. Frostflake arrow is really useful like that. I like it. Humans seem not to understand what it actually takes to earn a vision, bravery, hardship, etc. I think the biggest prerequisite for earning a vision is hardship. And not just hardship, but hardship to the point of suffering. And that's really telling to me about kind of like the sinister nature of the world of Tavot. The overseers seem to be invested in the suffering of the people in Tavot and then reward those who suffer, kind of needlessly. Those who, continue to fight despite great suffering, like they reward only those, and everybody else kind of, are forgotten about. it's just a weird balance that the overseers have kind of struck up in the world, and I'm really, really excited to see where it's going. Because, you know, like on the surface, this game's world is kind of bright and happy and colorful, but behind it, you know, there's something bad going on. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing, you know, how this story will play out over the next couple of years, and you know, especially regarding characters like Dainsleif and the Sustainer for sure, and seeing kind of what develops as a relationship between, you know, our protagonists and their sibling, especially as well, because that, you know, there's so much that could be unpacked there, and, you know, like them having a adversarial relationship at some point, I think is inevitable, and I'm really, really looking forward to seeing kind of how our protagonist reacts to finding out that their sibling is here, is alive, and is building an army of monsters to wage war against the archons of this world. And then, you know, I'll be even more curious to see what side our protagonist chooses to defend at that point. Because from Lumine's point of view, she seems to think that she's waging a just war, and everything that we're seeing the Tsaritsa prepare for kind of makes it seem as if what Lumine might, you know, doing might actually be just as well, because the Tsaritsa is definitely preparing for some kind of battle against seemingly against the, you know, the overseers of Celestia as well.
Healthy body, healthy
And if not that, then she's preparing to defend, you know, the land of Tavot from whatever it is that the Abyssal Order is doing. But that hasn't been stated by Child or anybody else. So I'm kind of thinking, like, while he doesn't have any love for them, and he definitely sees them as enemies, he hasn't announced anything specific, nor have any of the other Fatui, to make us think that they are preparing a battle directly against the Abyss Order. So that'll be really interesting to see where that develops as well. I wonder if we will see a treasure hoarder with a vision. I think that there's only a matter of time before that actually does end up happening. I think that that's likely. I don't necessarily think that every vision wielder is going to be somebody who is virtuous in some degree. Currently, that is the case, but I don't necessarily feel like that will continue to be the case forever. I think that it's likely we will see some who fight for themselves, and they've received a vision because they suffered greatly, and it kind of resulted in that. How about Klee, though? How'd she get a vision? Well, I mean, with regard to Klee's vision, we just know that it was given to her supposedly by the Animo Archon, although she's a child, so we don't really know if we can substantiate that claim directly. But at some point in the future, I will, do a deep dive into Klee's direct lore, and I'm, hopeful that I'll be able to get a little bit more of the answers for her vision acquisition directly at that time. Well, I got all those rocks already. I know there's a few I haven't gone. I didn't go in here yet, so I need to do that. They're not confined to the rules of this world when it comes to power. I might have missed something there. I'm not sure who the there is. Steve's demo mix. Maybe Dainsleif was there during the 500 or so years Atlas was missing, so he took her under his wing. I actually really do think that Dainsleif was there 500 years ago. I actually think Dainsleif has been around for quite some time. And he's a focal point of my next theory, and I believe that I know exactly who he is and who he has been in the history of Tavot, and we know more about him than it seems. and I pretty much lay it all out on the table in this next video. Like I said, I'm really looking forward to sharing it. It's coming out great, and hopefully it will be this week sometime. Do I think Kole will be a playable character, or at least show herself in the game story? Maybe. She's not, at least as of the manga, she's not a vision holder, so that could stand to be a problem with regard to her being, a playable character with any kind of, magical or elemental command. She did have the power from the Archon residue or whatever it's called. I always forget the name of whatever that is. I pretty much always have to have somebody remind me every time, because I'm always messing with too many other lore aspects, and some more obscure things like that seem to float straight out of my brain. But so unless she could find a way to control that, but at the end of the manga, she was pretty much told not to allow it to take her, because it seemed like it would destroy her if she allowed it to take her again, because they basically sealed it away in her so that it wouldn't manifest itself on its own anymore. But they made it seem as if when they did that it is still there, it's just now properly hidden, and if she allowed it to come back, that it would take her. So unless she could find a way to control that, or is granted a vision, she is one of those characters who seems to have a rather virtuous spirit and has suffered greatly. So it stands to reason that we could see Kole show up with a vision at some point in the future, and I'd be all for that. I think that she was an interesting character in the manga. I think that it's more likely she'd end up being a 4-star character, because she was basically being protected by Amber throughout the majority of that, and it would be weird if she ended up being a 5-star character more powerful than Amber when she arrives. So I think for that reason they probably make her a 4-star character, just for canon continuity. BFU, you're looking forward to seeing that? Nice. Well, like I said, hopefully it'll be this week. That's my goal. I'm going to continue to press for that. You feel like all GeoVision holders need prerequisite of being contract oriented. Pyro operators are generally have an unconventional character, but suffering is not a common trait for them. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess it doesn't seem as if Xiangling suffers. Klee may not be fully capable of suffering yet. She's young, so she may not really be aware of, what's going on in her own head. she pretty much is just preoccupied with, fish blasting and ending up in solitary confinement day in and day out. Pretty much she just hangs out and sets the world on fire for no reason, and then Jean has to clean up all of her messes, or if Jean isn't cleaning up the messes, well, generally Albedo is tasked with all of those specific messes. Thank God that, he can just use alchemy to reconstruct everything that she destroys. Do I think Dainsleif, the prince, and the unknown god is the pale princess from the Pygmies book story? Descriptions match almost exactly. So, possibly, but I think it goes a little bit deeper than just that. I don't know if I think that Dainsleif is... I mean, it's possible. It is. I'm trying to dance around some of these ideas before I dive too deep into them, because I'm still working on my script for my next video, and like I said, I'm discussing a lot of what's going on with Dainsleif, so I don't want to confuse the topics that I'm already working on with, new topics at the same time, nor do I want to give away all of the revelations that I'm working on for that specific video either. Alice had Albedo and Klee think of each other as siblings, but Alice is so mysterious, although we hear a pinch about her from Mona's character story. Yeah, and also Alice wrote the Adventurer's Travel Guide as well, where she pretty much just talks about how cool it would be if she got to blow this up, or how cool it would be if they blew this up over here, and so she seems like she also has a destructive nature similar to that of Klee. She's actually one of the characters I'm most excited to see introduced in the game. I would also love to see, from the manga, the character Vanessa introduced in some degree. We know that she still exists as like a, like a falcon or something that watches over Mondstadt. So what we don't know is whether or not she's capable of manifesting herself still in her human form. And if she is, it's feasible to think that she could actually end up at some point being a playable character, which would, I think, be amazing. Obviously, they may keep story elements like that under wraps and maybe not necessarily explore that right away, but I think that would be super, super awesome if they did do that. I think that it's Aether and Lumine in the Battle Pass vid. Oh, I definitely don't think the Battle Pass vid is Aether and Lumine. That is a red herring if I've ever saw one, and that's another big topic that I explore in my lore video coming up. The Battle Pass video, there's no way that that's Aether and Lumine. It is meant to misdirect us and make us overlook details that are being delivered to us, so that we don't figure out the story too early. But, those of us who make it our business to deep dive things tend to see through that stuff a little bit more. And so there's several things in that video that introduce elements that are not introduced in the game's story and have nothing to do with our character's quest thus far. And there's also several other elements within it that also introduced elements to me that suggest that they are two different characters that we have already seen. One of them in the story directly and one not in the story directly. But yeah, like I said, I'm working on that video right now, so it's definitely a topic that I will be more than happy to discuss after the release of that video. And I look forward to, discussing it, debating it, or whatever at that point in time. It's very interesting. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. I mean, even Ganyu's family history is very interesting. I mean, I think every character's family history, and to some degree, is really interesting in this game. Their writing team has been doing really just a wonderful job with this game. I can't wait to, for each new character to show up, for each new story to release. Especially, like the last year, in the real world has just been dreadful. This has not been great. So, to be able to descend into a different world where, it's kind of, fantastical and totally different from our own, but still has, strife that you can overcome. It's somehow much more gratifying than our world, which continues to be terrible and we can't do anything about it. So, it's nice. Do you think we will have a quest to get Venti's Gnosis back? No, I don't think that we'll be getting a quest to get Venti's Gnosis back. I think as the game progresses, each and every one of the Archons are going to lose their Gnosis to the Tsaritsa. I think that's an inevitability at this point. Obviously 2 is not indicative of a pattern yet, but 3 certainly would be. So we'll know for sure when Inazuma comes out and we resolve that quest line as to whether or not that will end up being the case for sure. But I suspect heavily that is what we, will be seeing. I've still yet to have been struck by lightning. I need to make that happen. You get that little charge spot in the grass or whatever beforehand, but I just never seem to make it to the spot. I saw that one and then didn't get to it in time. There's another one over there. One of these days I'm going to get struck by lightning and get that achievement. One of these days. It's striking all over the place, but not here. Oh, I didn't even see that one. Have I read any books in the game? Did I enjoy any? If so, Yeah, so Murderer of Birds, I've actually read pretty much every book in the game a few times. So in a lot of ways, it becomes very difficult for me to hold on to all that information and then, play into all the moving pieces simultaneously. It's kind of, akin to reading a whole bunch of Tolkien books or something at the same time and then trying to relate everything back together in each intricate detail. So what I try to do is, I've read them all. I get an idea of what's happened, and then if I get ideas for theories or things that, I can cross-reference into other lore aspects, then I go back and I focus on it at that time. But yeah, there's a lot that I've really enjoyed. Particularly the ones that really detail the history of Mondstadt, I find very interesting. The ones about the Gunhildr clan, those are really great. And they're actually some that I really want to do some lore content for in the future. I've just not had the time to dive into those for that specific purpose. I have, obviously... Oh, come on, I was almost on that one. Anyways, I have specifically talked about the Gunhildr clan in my History of Mondstadt video that I did long before the game even released. But I do want to do a more specific deep dive into the Gunhildrs at some point in the future, especially since Jean is a Gunhildr. I think that'll be really, really, fun to dive into. Let me go ahead and knock this thing out real quick. These things die so quick. Just threw down the extra lure for some bonus damage. Didn't even really need it, though, because it's raining. Okay, if you're talking about the Pygmies book, it can't be, but if you're talking about a Battle Pass separated kind of story, then yeah. Huh. I heard they wrote a happy story in Honkai Impact since 2020 was so bad they thought people needed a break. I mean, I could see that. I feel like because Genshin is the second game, well, actually, I think it's the third, but it's like really the second large game that they're working on. They've kind of learned from their, writing trends in the other games so that now they can kind of refine how they play with their viewers' emotions in a more effective way. So they're kind of learning how to better balance that roller coaster of, tragedy and happiness and loss. So, they in Honkai Impact, things were pretty dreary, pretty, sad for a while in that game. And it definitely has that Evangelion feeling to it where everything is bad. It doesn't look like it's going to get any better when you play through that game. Come on, come on. Ah, I just didn't have the stamina to get to that one. Unfortunate. But this game, there's been kind of not that much. There's definitely sadness in the game, for sure. But there hasn't really been any tragic events that we've bore witness to just yet. We're still waiting for that moment to come, and I'm sure it's coming. I can't say what it might be. I suspect if I had to make a guess, it would be like a character like Venti or Diluc or somebody like that sacrificing themselves for the greater good. That's what I would suspect, but who knows? It could really go. It could be anything. But I'm sure when tragedy strikes in this game, it's gonna be big. It's gonna be something that nobody wanted to see, but will shake the community when it does. Murderer Bud, fancy seeing you here. How goes the Genshin adventure? Huh. Time for me to go. You guys have a good night. Well, have a good night, Freak. Thanks for stopping in tonight. Guys, when are they going to release Inazuma map? I think it's still going to be a little while before that happens. 1.3 is coming out soon, with in a few days here, and that's not adding anything new to the map so far as we know. My bet is 1.4 is going to fill in this area of the map at the chasm. It's the only other area of the map currently that is labeled. If you look at the entire rest of the outskirts of the map, there were only, before 1.2, there were 2 areas of the map that were labeled but not actually shown. And that was Dragonspine and the chasm. But now Dragonspine's out, but the chasm is still labeled and not actually shown. So, and you can see, the name of it here. There's some things in the game that already talk about it. There was also some talk of some rocks that put people to sleep, if that sounds familiar. So there could be a few things going on over there. I suspect 1.4 will be introducing the chasm. Completely speculatory, though. I have no way to verify that, obviously, but that's what my guess would be. And then maybe there will be another non-map release after Chasm, and then maybe like 1.6 could be Inazuma, unless, of course, they decide to jump from version 1.5 straight to 2.0, and then that's, Inazuma or something like that. Who knows how they'll actually choose to do it, but we'll see. Basically all the books have seemingly hinted towards the lore. The only one I can't really link to anything is the Fox and the Dandelion Sea. So obviously, oh man, I accidentally just popped my elemental burst. Some of the books in the game are intended to be fables, but I feel like they are, veiled stories of something that may have actually happened in the game world, or like subject to telephone effect kind of things, where it's a story based on somebody's account of something that may have actually occurred, but we can't say exactly what. But that actually is a really interesting one. The Fox and the Dandelion Sea is actually a really, really compelling story. If you guys haven't taken the time to read through that one, that one's a good read. I really did enjoy that one. Maybe I explained it already, but why not put Bennett in my team? So I actually did explain this already, Bart, and I actually go kind of into that idea in my build video series that I just released. But the main reason for not using Bennett in this team, for one, I can put him to use in a different team still, and I very much plan to. I'm going to be building a team around Kaching at some point in the near future, and I more than likely will be putting Bennett on that team. But the reason why I don't put Bennett on this team in place of Diluc or Klee, for one, I need Klee to counteract some of the weaknesses in Mona's kit, because as a Catalyst user, shields are a pain in the butt. But you could say Diluc could also fill in those same gaps. Sure, he can. But he's not as stable a pyro producer as Klee, and I prefer to have Klee on deck for that reason. But Diluc has a Wolf's Gravestone. So he actually provides a 60% bonus in attack whenever I fire that bonus off, which is really, really nice to have. And that's because the Wolf's Gravestone is actually R3. So that's the reason why I don't use Bennett in the party, because when you have an R3 Wolf's Gravestone, you might as well put it to use when able. And pretty much any time I'm fighting, a larger boss or a harder enemy, I always make sure that if I haven't already put Diluc to use in that fight, that I swap to him whenever I see that enemy drop below 30%, because that extra bonus damage really, really makes a big, big difference. Where? Oh, okay, it's up on the peak. Inazuma comes out in 2056. Don't put that voodoo on us, Ricky Bobby. Guess who will be the first playable character to die in the game? Well, like I was saying earlier, I suspect the first playable character to die in the game will either be Venti or Diluc. I'm not saying I want that to happen, but that's... if I had to put money on a character dying in this game, it would be one of those two. Definitely one of those two. I would be really surprised if it's either anybody else. Those two characters strike me as the ones who would for sure put, lay it on the wire and sacrifice themselves for everybody else. Diluc basically already serves that purpose as the Dark Knight hero. He's a character who definitely strikes me, just like Batman, as kind of having almost like a death wish. He kind of has a bit of that survivor's grief thing going on, because he, couldn't defeat Ursa the Drake, 4 years ago when it attacked he and his father's convoy. And then not only did that happen, and his father had to use a delusion to save him instead, which then backfired and mortally wounded him. And it was, not a quick death for him. It was a slow and painful one that Diluc had to deliver him from, which is even worse. He literally had to, basically put his father out of his misery, which that's going to scar anybody. So he's definitely a character, I think, who would actively seek a way to end that. I'm not saying he's suicidal, but if he saw a way to save save the people he cares about, save the city that he cares about, and also end his own suffering, I think he would do it. And I don't think he would think twice about it. And Venti, for a lot of the same reasons, I think would as well. Venti basically drinks to forget. He took the persona of Venti. He actually is the Wind Spirit Barbados. He's not, nor was he ever actually human. So he lives in a kind of a constant state of mourning about his old friend, and basically lives as a tribute to his old friend. But I think if he needed to, yeah, he'd put it on the line, and I swear I thought that lightning just hit me. But yeah, I think he'd put it on the line and go, and I think that would be sad. Talking about fables, Pale Princess is an interesting one for that topic. The Abyss Mage on Lisa's quest says that, but one thing in that story is fake. God, I'm trying to remember what that Abyss Mage said in the Lisa quest. It's been so long. Yeah, I don't know if I remember exactly what the Abyss Mage says. You'll have to remind me, beta tester, on that one. Jeruso, the reason I don't like leaks is because it can cause dev to do major overhaul at the last minute. It's kind of what happened to Zhongli. I mean, yeah, I don't like leaks for the same reason, Hanin. They are damaging in general to the community. The entire community was expecting Zhongli to be one thing, and he didn't end up being that. And that's because, content leaks built him up to be something he wasn't. And I'm not saying he's a bad character, because I think he was fine the way he is. I use him as a primary DPS, but that's also because I built a team around him designed to make him shine, and not everybody has the resources to do that. You have to have very specific characters at your disposal in order to make a character like Zhongli shine as a primary DPS. Otherwise, he's a support character and was designed to fill that role. Now he's going to definitely be, I think, with the changes that they've announced for him, something more akin to a primary DPS anyways. And he might actually be kind of bordering on overpowered after that point. I guess time will tell. But another good example, people were pretty invested in leaks regarding the character Hotel, and the 1.3 stream this past week came out, and there was no mention of her. And there's a lot of people who are really, really upset about that, but they have no reason to be, because if they weren't invested in the leaks, they wouldn't have known about the character coming out in the near future or at some point in the future anyways. So they kind of set unrealistic expectations again to receive a character that isn't ready yet. So that's one of the reasons why I stay away from leaks, and it's one of the reasons why I don't discuss them. That's the only theory of Tavot Historia that you hate, no killing of your Venti. I mean, I'm not saying that I think it will happen, but I think that if any character is likely to not survive the storyline, I think Venti would be one of the most just truly gut-wrenching characters to see killed in the story. I can't imagine a character on this roster right now that if we had to watch them die would have more emotional impact than Venti. That character from the beginning has been kind of like the heart of the story, and if he died, it would be painful. It really would. And I think they know that too. And the character, it just has the personality to be that guy, to take the fall for everybody else. So we'll see. I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying I hope it happens, but I think it could. Child has had proper build-up tragedy. It will most definitely be sad, but Child dying is actually very feasible. Yeah, I could see that happening too. He's, they're a character, or he is a character rather, I should say, that was established as being like, very caring for his family, but will continue to serve the ideals of the Tsaritsa to whatever end. And so we could really end up with, okay, these two birds didn't leave. Okay, well, now they did. Yeah, so we could really see anything happen with him as well. I don't know if I think he's as likely to be a casualty as Venti, but I think that it could happen. Yeah, I think he is another character who is high on the list for that potential kind of future for sure. And I could see him being a character who sacrifices himself for that same reason. In about 5 minutes, I'm gonna take a 5-minute break to get some water and stand up. So I'm gonna take care, or go ahead and get out a few more questions here before I take that short break, though. Hootal, yeah, that's the meme that's out now, Lytails, for sure. That whole WHO, yeah, or Hoo-How, yeah. Should have seen it coming. There was never any gameplay ever. Yeah, I mean, for sure. Not to mention leaks are most of the time just completely fake. Remember when someone leaked that we'd get a 5-star guarantee at 50 wishes? Yeah, that was another big one too. And I was, again, really, really skeptical of that early on as well. Definitely stuff to avoid, leaks in general. They set you up for disappointment. And this is one of the reasons why, if any of you guys have been following my channel since the early days, early on I had my GUR videos, my Genshin Impact Intelligence Report. They were my series of videos that I established to do news content. But nobody cares about the news of this game that's not leaks right now. It seems like leaks are the only news anybody cares about. And as a result, those videos don't perform well. And I liked making them. I liked giving you guys news that's actually quantifiable and accurate. And I could see myself going back to them. But right now, they don't perform well. And it's just like my build videos that I just released, they're also not doing super great. I knew they wouldn't. They're really more a community service. Like, there are people who need this, so I'm going to make this. But those news videos would just be like, I would be making them, and then they wouldn't really be contributing anything to the channel. And people want leaks right now. Most of the news that comes out is discussed in their own streams right before they come out, because they do these giant, streams every 6 weeks that outline everything that's going to come out. So, basically MiHoYo already has their news distributed on their own. So really, they are the only accurate source of news that we can rely on right now. And it kind of eliminates the need for me to do it. And that's one of the reasons why I've stopped doing that. Do I think Child might defect instead? No, I don't think so. He definitely seems like devoutly a follower of the Tsaritsa's goals, for sure. Explain delusion real quick, please. I kind of get it, but don't. So a delusion is an artificial vision. I believe they are crafted like in maybe by what's his name, Ildotor, in one of the Fatui Harbingers. And if not created by Ildotor, then they are created directly by the Tsaritsa, using this idea of like the Archon residue or something like that. But they have this ability to, basically endow a non-vision blessed human with the powers of a vision, but it's not a real vision, and it has more risk attached to it. They actually can backfire and kill the user. So that's, another thing that is worth mentioning. You want more characters like Hu Tao, characters that you can skip and have zero care about doing so? Way too many characters and too little resources? Well, that's one of the other things that they announced in the recent 1.3 stream. They're going to be doubling the amount of resources that you get from the ley lines. That's going to be really nice. I think that that's something we've needed from the beginning. I think it's only going to be an event that lasts a short time, but I'm really hoping that they're going to see such an increase in ley line usage at that point that maybe it'll encourage them to just make that as a long-term change, because right now the ley lines give you such a bad return for your resin that it kind of discourages you from even doing it. I do believe we'll get a 5-star character of choice at some point. All gachas do it. Yeah, I agree with that, Carter Jalil. I do think at some point in time, this game will give us a free 5-star character, but I kind of don't see that happening until maybe like the 1-year anniversary or something. So maybe like the end of September this year, we might see something like that coming, but probably not before then. How long do I think it would take to finish the whole Tavot chapter before moving on to another world? I would expect 3 years minimum. Yeah. Because we have 2 of the storylines from that storyline preview out of the 8 they previewed. So if they do 1 new reveal every 6 months, it would take them 3 years to put out all of that information. So that's or all of that storyline. That's kind of how I expect them to go with it. And if we see Inazuma around the 6-month mark from release, that would put it out March, middle or end of March. Then that would kind of confirm that might be their intent to do that as well. So, we'll kind of see how that works out for their projection, though. Abyss Mage, you just wanted the book. I was unaware anyone in Mondstadt would be concerned about the hidden secrets of that book. Just who are you? Tilly's. Okay, I do remember that book. He was really weird about that, yeah. Lolly Revolution midweek stream. Oof, yeah, I did have a typo on the announcement I made for that earlier today. I did fix it. If you go back and you check it, I did fix that typo, but it was there. But yeah, welcome, Lolly Revolution. You got here actually just in time for me to take a 5-minute break. I'm actually about to step away because I need to get something to drink, and I need to get up out of my chair for just a couple of minutes and stretch. So I am going to step away for about 5 minutes, guys, but I will be right back. All right, well, I am back, everybody. Sorry for the short break on there, but I definitely needed to grab a drink and stretch out a little bit. Hopefully everything's still going okay here in the chat. Let me see if I missed anything here real quick. Looks like Fate said sad. Your question got buried. Fate, if you want to try and toss it back up in the chat, I'll see if I can catch it as it scrolls by this time. Now that I'm back, might be easiest for me to try to answer it now. Lolly Revolution. TH Chi Wen. You know, who knows? At this point, I would be I'd be really, really pleased if it happened, but like it's just one of those things, you know. Like now that they've announced a Keqing banner, I'm a little bit more hopeful that we'll see a Chi-Chi banner, at which point I will definitely make a point to pull for her, just like I would for any character I don't have. So hopefully soon. You know, after Keqing, you know, at some point, I'm sure they will have a Mona banner, a Jean banner, a Diluc banner, and a Chi-Chi banner. I'm sure it will happen. It's just going to take a little time. Lisa being a friend of Sino. Interesting. You kind of felt bad for Ganyu, though. The thing I've seen what they did to her. Well, caution everyone from the side of the fandom. I don't know if I might have missed something. I don't know if I have full context for what it is that you're talking about there, Hanin. Tavot Historia, how old is Albedo really? Well, I mean, he seems like he's young. The way they kind of talk about him, the way like his story details are framed even, it seems like he actually is young. Like he hasn't been around that long. He still has, like, despite being really, really smart, like there's still certain aspects to his personal story that suggest that he has a little bit of like you know, a little bit of a naive, unexperienced nature to him, despite the fact that he's like a genius with regard to alchemy. So I think he's still young, and I think he says his earliest memories are adventuring alongside of his master. So like I think that, you know, he you know, if he was a homunculus, he probably he probably was created, you know, in the form that he is now. He may not even be capable of aging. We don't know. We'll see kind of how that ends up working out. Let's see. I dare you to build Amber, Neri. I mean, honestly, I don't even dislike that character anyways. I did use her early on. At the early stages in the game, like, she was actually, you know, still being used by me for quite some time. She allowed me to have pyro resonance and an archer in my team to, you know, take care of weak point strikes and stuff like that, which was nice. So that's why she ended up, you know, 40 with raised to 50 before I actually ended up benching her. Now she's not really built. She hasn't really had any access to any equipment that was meaningful for quite some time. She has a prototype crescent on her, but yeah, she hasn't really been used for a while. I think it could be fun to build her at some point, but I don't think that's going to be happening anytime soon. You play Genshin literally on a Intel HD integrated graphics after your NVIDIA card died. Well, that's unfortunate. Fortunately, Genshin Impact isn't that aggressive on system resources, so it makes it to where you're still able to do that. It's probably not, you know, super effective, but, or, you know, attractive to look at like that, but it's, you know, still doable. You should stream your pulls for Xiao banner. You're on a non-guaranteed, so maybe Chi-Chi will come, although you're not missing out on much. I mean, I want Chi-Chi for one, because she's the only character I don't have. And two, I think she will be very useful in a cryo resonance team. So a team, for me, that would be a team likely built around Ganyu, or also she would be a great healer to pair with Keqing. But I don't have my Keqing completely built yet, and I don't have Chi-Chi. So I've got a few ideas for team comps that I want to build around Keqing, but I've got to get Chi-Chi to pull the trigger on some of that though. Is Albedo a homunculus? Probably. It really does seem like there's a lot of things that suggest that he may be. I'd be more surprised if he isn't at this point. For a while, I was definitely on the other side of the fence, that suggests like, no, there's no way he's a homunculus. Like, I don't think they're going that route. But then, kind of more and more of the evidence just kept stacking up, and I couldn't, the more of it that stacks up, the harder it is to ignore, and eventually it just got to a point where like I just could no longer ignore it, and now I'm definitely kind of on the side that says that yeah, he probably is a homunculus. Need to heal up again here really quick. Okay, let's see. I think I missed your question again, Fate. Hang on. Let me see if I can find it here. Do I plan on using Honkai lore for theory crafting for Genshin? Not because they're linked, but because MiHoYo has a habit of reusing story beats. So I actually do think that they are linked. And I think that like the idea of like repeated story beats is kind of in line with like the cyclical nature of the universe that they're weaving, and it kind of makes sense. And I think we're already kind of bearing witness to some aspects of cyclical nature here now, but I think if I were to use Honkai Impact lore directly as it compares to Genshin Impact, it will probably be because we've made significant discoveries that do for sure link the worlds together. We already know that the developers consider them two leaves on the same tree, which is to suggest that they are kind of taking place in either parallel or in the parallel universes, or the same universe but in simply different worlds within that same universe. And our protagonist is a world hopping traveler, so it to me seems like it's very probable that these worlds will be taking place within the same universe. So to answer your question, yeah, I suspect at some point in the future I will be using Honkai Impact lore more directly. Right now, I've pretty much only made, some vague comparisons of the Sustainer to the Herrscher of the Void, and that's it. What do I think about Scaramouche maybe playing a big role gathering the visions of Inazuma to give back to the Electro Archon, and he might be getting something out of it? So I don't know if he's actually involved in any. Like, we know that the Vision Hunt decree was started by the Raiden Shogun. For what reasons, we don't know exactly, but we know that the Electro Archon herself has ordered all of the Electro Visions to be collected within her borders, and that nobody is allowed to enter or leave Inazuma either. It's now a closed nation. You cannot go or leave. There actually has been some there's messages in the bottle in Dragonspine kind of allude to that as well, as does the refugee in Liyue. Also kind of mentions the idea of why I cannot jump on this. Also kind of mentions the idea of the closed nation and how, it was really hard for her to get out of there. But the Raiden Shogun is the one who is collecting all of those visions, and she's mounting them on a statue. But we don't know why. So I don't think the Sarita needs visions. I don't think that, like, the Saritsa can make her own visions if she needs them. I don't think she's concerned with that. I'd be surprised if that ended up being a story thread for them to pull on in any meaningful sense. Okay, well, there we go. Didn't even need to charge that one. Do I think Kaia will die? I can see him dying by betraying his homeland and standing with Mondstadt. I could see that happening with Kaia, but I think a character like Kaia is one of those characters who's like his story arc might be one that's more like destined for redemption kind of thing. Like, you know, he's not obviously like built as like a villain or anything, but he's a character who he seems to be trying to already, you know, make the play to side with Mondstadt. And I think that's why he came clean with Diluc in the first place. So yeah, I think he'll have to make that choice at some point in the future. Mona even believes that he'll have to make that choice. Could he die? Sure. I think he's less likely to die, just in my own personal opinion. I think he's more likely to die, or less likely to die than a character like Diluc or Venti, but I mean, it could happen. There's definitely characters in the game that I think are probably unlikely to die, and he would not make that list of unlikely to die characters. Question for you: do you think they might slow down on new character releases in favor of doing new chapters, new gameplay for old characters? Yeah, I do, and we're already seeing that. What with the whole Kuching banner coming out, whether or not they're doing that just to focus on other aspects of content, or they're doing it because they needed more time to continue developing characters that they are already working on, I don't know. But they, you know, that's kind of what's been happening, as you know, that is what's happening, you know, in the near future. So, you know, but it is worth noting that just because we're not getting a new 5-star, you know, banner, doesn't necessarily mean we might not see a new 4-star character in that same banner. But we haven't had an announcement for any new 4-star characters either, so who knows? You know, they could be, you know, prepping us for some kind of big surprise in that regard. Again, it's another one of those things, only time will tell. It's purely speculation, but we will see. What's my build for Mona? It actually scrolls past the bottom of the screen. I think they scroll on like a 30-second timer, but what I can do is, hang on, I can go into my overlay here and force it to display that one sooner. There you go. It's at the bottom left corner of the screen. What do you think of Arthur staring at the sword in the ground outside of Mondstadt by the dock's gate? Just a nod to the sword and the stone, or something more? Well, I mean, it's a character named Arthur staring at a stone and the sword. Yeah, I do think that's pretty much all it was. It was just like a little Easter egg kind of gag or something. They could make something more out of it, but sometimes I think, you know, like, they spend so much time writing, you know, deep details into other aspects of the game. Sometimes, you know, there's got to be little throwaways here and there, and I think that probably was one of those instances where they just gave us a little throwaway detail as a freebie there, and that's probably all it will be. TH, make a video of the bursts without the camera angle, just a suggestion. You mean like where you use elemental bursts like up close to a wall so that it can't show the animation like this? Or like where you use it and it shows the character still doing it but still not like zoomed in? I think with Zhongli you can put down a steel and get too close to it and it'll still show the character doing it, but you won't actually see the animation play. Is that what you're talking about? Mnee, thank you. So they functionally are new characters that you roll for? I might have missed something there. Kaia is supposedly a 5-star character. Kaia is not a 5-star character. So from like all the info diving that I've done and compared since the beginning of the game, all of his stats scale like 4-star characters. I think lore-wise, he could end up becoming a 5-star character, but I suspect that all of our starter characters, Amber, Lisa, Kaia, are going to return into the story at some point in the future, and are going to we're going to get new 5-star variants of those characters at some point in the future. I fully expect that that's going to happen. Unless Celestia actually puts a limit on how many visions the Archons can give at any moment. So this is one of those other things, like, we still don't know much about the idea of, like, vision generation. We don't know if the Archons themselves actually generate those visions, or if they are just the ends to justify the means, right? So, like, maybe the Overseers of Celestia are actually the ones who choose who get the visions, and then the Archons are tasked with distributing them. We don't know exactly how this works. It could be that, you know, they aren't actually allowed to generate visions without, you know, oversight first. You know, they might actually be micromanaged. This could be part of the reason why, you know, in the manga, Vanessa asks Venti, you know, for information about what Celestia is like, or something to that effect, and he immediately became uncomfortable and didn't want to talk about it. And it, like, cuts to this, like, little scene of, like, some hooded figures, like, looking over their shoulder as if to, you know, dissuade him from talking about it. And he kind of, like, changes the subject to, like, you know, maybe we should leave and then we can discuss other things, or something, we shouldn't talk about it here, or something to that effect. I forget exactly what it was, but basically he changes the subject and kind of tries to change. Yeah, he just changes the topic. He's not going to talk about it. And so I don't think the Archons are really, there's a lot of things they're not allowed to do. Sorry if I already answered this, but when do you think we'll get Inazuma? So my guess for Inazuma would be sometime in March. That would be, it's purely a guess based on, you know, the fact that Inazuma was not included on any of the roadmaps for information that we've seen thus far, and we don't have any, like, we're about to reach the end of that roadmap that we were shown. Like, we're literally, I think with like 1.3 or something, I think we're at the end of that. So my guess would be like late March or April, somewhere around there. I think that would be hilarious if it were in the April time frame. Like, they'll just go ahead and drop us it. Like, tell us they're going to give us Inazuma on April 1st. Nobody will believe it, but that would be hilarious if they did something like that. TH, can you pick the next character quest or continuation of previous characters? Who gets it? Me? You want another Lisa date? The next character quest, like, you mean like the next random character to actually get a story progression? If I had to pick a character I'd like to see, like a character who hasn't had a story targeted specifically at them, I would have to choose Gentian. I think that her story, from her profile story, is really interesting, and I'd like to learn more about that character. 5-star Beidou, yes. Just based on that character's backstory, I'm surprised they didn't make her 5-star. But then again, if you look at Ningguang, for instance, she is also not a 5-star character and is really powerful in the story. And this is another one of those things, like, I suspect that's a character that they're going to revisit as well. I think at some point in the story, Ningguang is going to become, like, Zhongli lost his Gnosis and is no longer the Geo Archon, and there's going to have to be a new Geo Archon. I think it's gonna end up. I really think it's gonna end up being Ningguang, and I think that'll be an amazing payoff when it happens. I really hope that's what they do. I think each region kind of has a character whom I think is likely to be the replacement Archon, or at least of the two that we've already seen.
Left to do.
I could definitely see like Jean taking that kind of role from Venti, and obviously Ningguang in taking that role from Zhongli in Liyue. So I mean, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, they could definitely do anything they want. They don't even necessarily have to replace these Archons, but if history repeats itself, then it's likely that will occur. Oh, I need to head over to another area where I haven't completed farming out some of the enemies. I'll head over here. Actually, what I need to do is go ahead and run my artifact farming route, which I also haven't done yet today. So what I will do is that I need to pull up my artifact farming route really quick. Let's see here. Sorry, terribly uninterested listening to me type. Okay, I got what I needed now. Okay. Anyways, Lisa 5-star Sumeru version, Barbara 5-star Fontaine version, Kaia 5-star Kenria version. Yeah, I mean, I think that's all likely. Barbara, it makes sense for Fontaine because Barbara is an entertainer, and I suspect that Fontaine's going to be a nation obsessed with this idea of entertainment. But I would also add that I really think that Amber will pick up a 5-star version in Sumeru as well. So that would be... my guess is when Sumeru comes around, like, we're going to be seeing not just new 5 stars, but also... both Lisa and Amber returning, but as 5-star characters. That's I really do think that's destined to occur at that time. TH, is it possible to reject a vision? That topic is stuck on your mind because you took a commission to draw someone's human anti-vision user, assassin OC, and it's a pretty sweet bio. Interesting. So the idea of rejecting a vision, I don't think so. And the reason why I don't think that they can reject their vision is because if you've ever taken the time to read Kaching's story, she tried to basically destroy her vision. She didn't want it. She has spent most of her life as something of an atheist, and she doesn't or did not. I don't know what tense I should use for that because she feels a little bit differently about it after the defeat of Asael. But she isn't really a devout follower of the Archons in general, and when she received her vision, she resented it. She wants people to respect her for the things that she accomplishes on her own, and she doesn't want people to think that she only was able to accomplish this or that because she is a vision wielder or because she was blessed with the gift of a vision. So she tried to destroy it. She tried to throw it away. She did all sorts of different things to try to get rid of it, and it always ended up back in her possession. Eventually she accepted it, but she did full on try not to. Oh, you have to go early tonight, Lunacy? Well, I appreciate you stopping in tonight. I do appreciate it. I always do. Xinyan showed up in the 1.3 trailer? I don't know if I remember that, but if that's the case, great. I'd really like to see more information with her. I think that another time that character could possibly show up, if she doesn't show up as a primary player in the story soon, I think around the Fontaine storyline, she could also become a high use character in the story around there. Just because, again, she's another character who is tied in with this idea of entertainment. It would be interesting to see. We now have 2 characters in the game who are basically 3, really, who are musicians. Venti's a songwriter, Barbara is a lyricist, a singer, and Xinyan is a guitarist. So we could see some interesting possibilities for a band forming in Genshin Impact at some point. That would be really interesting. I've seen some people do some kind of cool art for that since the game released as well, and I've made some jokes since the game released, or since Zhongli released and Xinyan released, where originally when I built my Zhongli team, it was literally Zhongli and 3 4-stars, so I was calling it Zhongli and the 4-stars, and it sounded like a band name. Hey Tavot, I think MiHoYo assigns characters as 5 stars and 4 stars. I'm not sure if I understand the question exactly. Like, I think I might need more clarification on what exactly you mean by like how, if they assign 4-star and 5-star. If you're talking about like when they are like writing a character from a lore standpoint, if they're like, this character is going to be, you know, weaker than this character, so it will be a 4-star. I think yes, I think that's definitely one of the things that they try to do. But yeah, let me know if you actually were coming at that from a different angle. I'm not really sure. Can I share the artifact farm route at Tavot Historia? Yeah, I can, Ravish. I actually just have a link that I use. I pulled it up because I always search it back out. That's the artifact route that I use. It has 12 and 24-hour artifacts listed on it, and you get a good amount of artifacts from this route pretty much every day. At some point, I will memorize the route and not need the guide anymore, but I don't know when that's going to happen. One day, maybe. Who knows? Kuching also tried hard to... Yeah, she definitely did try to reject her vision, for sure. Kuching has turned into a Rex Lapis fangirl, don't lie. Yeah, she definitely did, and that was one of the reasons why I said... I don't know if I should say that she is or did or whatever, like... or is or was, you know, lived her life or whatever as an atheist, because like now she's, you know, a fan of Rex Lapis due to the way he decided to, like, she knows that because Ningguang, you know, would have likely told, you know, the Yuheng of the Liu Qixing that Rex Lapis came to her in a dream and said that, like, hey, listen, I did this intentionally, I'm not really dead, but I did need to leave this to you all. To see, you know, I needed to test you to see if you guys could take this over for yourselves. And so I think that, you know, for obvious reasons would resonate with a character like Kuching, who is a character who believes strongly in, you know, building her own destiny. You're just dropping in. The story teaser for the Yakshas makes me think that make the visions aren't directly linked to the Archons. So here's one of the things that I would have to say with regard to that. Characters who are not in, like, necessarily human may or may not have the ability to use the elements without a vision. Now, Zhao does have a vision. And, you know, so he's an Adepti, he has a vision. Ganyu is an Adepti, she has a vision. We don't know, because we haven't seen well enough the designs of the other Yakshas, whether or not they do have visions, but I suspect that they probably do. But there are instances of non-humanoid characters within the world of Tavot, such as Barbados, who, you know, is not actually human, was able to command the wind powers without the use of a vision. So yeah, humans need visions, but you know, Adepti maybe don't. And non-humans maybe don't. So, like, it seems like Rex Lapis did not necessarily need a vision, but we don't know for sure whether or not his is real or not, really. Like, there's some things that might suggest that his vision actually isn't real. But until we have another one of those events where, like, the visions resonate with, like, an object that's nearby and his doesn't, like Venti's didn't, during, Unreconciled Stars event, well, then we won't really know until that time. I think there's another one. Yeah, I went the wrong way. I need to go to the north now. Barbara, vocalist, Jinyon, guitarist, and Scaramouche will do the Fandango. I regret everything. Yeah, that's what you meant based on the lore. Okay, Lighthouse. Yeah, I do think that based on, you know, the writings of the characters, they have an idea of the concept of how powerful they want said character to be. And then they decide to, you know, then implement what star the character will be. Now, I do think that there is some limitation to that, however. And I think characters like Ningguang would be the clearest example of that. She seems extremely powerful. Maybe more powerful than many of the other characters in the story that we've been introduced to, but is a 4-star. But I think that's by design. I think that they've given us a 4-star variant of that character for now because they want to be able to give us a 5-star version of that character later. That's what I suspect is going to happen. They're going to, you know, give us a, you know, growth for the character in the story and in power level simultaneously by giving us, you know, that increased, you know, character power with a new skill set and new powers and all that at some point in the future. Obviously, it's completely speculatory. I don't know for sure that that's their plan, but I would be really surprised if that's not what they're going to do. They definitely do that in MiHoYo's other gacha titles. So that's one of the reasons why I fully suspect that that is going to be, you know, the destiny of this game as well. It's one of the other reasons why I really think we will eventually see costumes. For one, we already have a wardrobe, which is only basically, you know, holding a bunch of different wings right now. I do really expect that we will be seeing, you know, costumes for characters free-flowing from that at some point in the future as well. And if you've ever read the manga, you'll see that characters like Jean and Lisa, Amber, Kaia, Diluc, they all have other outfits that they've been drawn in on there that were all pretty cool as well. So they've already got, you know, conceptualized art for these characters wearing other costumes that are still very unique to that character, still within their color palettes, and kind of suggested, like, you know, like growth or something to that effect for those characters. Honestly, I think the alternate outfit in the manga for Amber and for Lisa were cooler than the ones that they already have. So I really hope that those do show up. I think... Oh, okay, it's right here. I knew there was another one around here. I couldn't remember where it was. It's right here. Okay, need Klee. Can't go under that with Diluc. Better. It's another one of the great things about keeping one of the short characters on your party, because if you have only tall characters, you can't run under the short stuff like this. Definitely helpful. Gonna teleport to the next location now that I cleaned out this one, which is over here. How does opposite gender traveler sound as boss fight later down the line? You like a good mirror match in your games. Facing your own tactics is oddly fun in an infuriating way. I think that actually is likely to happen, and I'm really excited for that possibility. You know, like having grown up, you know, playing Zelda games especially, you know, you're introduced early on in, you know, the Zelda franchise to this idea of like Dark Link or Mirror Link. And so I think the idea of like, yeah, mirror matching is really, really cool. And like, it's something that as a concept is something I've enjoyed since I was a kid. So yeah, I would love to see that. I think that that is destined to happen in the game at some point. And yeah, I think that'll be really cool. All right, this thing is teleporting all over the place and is driving me crazy. All right, there we go. Yeah, you can't hide from that. Jerky Whopper flower. Who will be the 4-star rate up on Xiao banner? I suspect we'll probably find out tomorrow. I want to say the last time we had a new banner character, we found out either on the Sunday or Monday before. So I think we should find out within the next day or so who the 4-star characters with the Zhao banner will be. Any suggestions I make at this point would be a complete speculation. And we're so close to just finding out the truth anyways. If we're going to find out tomorrow, then we would know probably in about 30 minutes, because usually they make those announcements around midnight EST. So we'll, if we don't find out in like 35 minutes right around when I end the stream this evening, then we'll probably find out midnight of the following day. All right, I got to continue heading down this way. So you just realized something. Zhongli looks and has a very similar power set to the character called Yang in Honkai Impact 3, who had been in the focus of the manga around Zhongli's release. Yeah, so that's something that I had heard recently as well. And there's other characters in Honkai Impact who, have been introduced to look like characters in Genshin Impact as well. I believe there's a character named Wendy in Honkai Impact who looks like shockingly like Venti. And everybody's kind of expecting the Raiden Shogun to look like Mei in Honkai Impact. So there's definitely, they've basically just been, designing the Archons to look like characters thus far from Honkai Impact. And I'm sure that there's a reason for that other than just because they're, throwing little, similarity Easter eggs in. I don't think it's just for that. I feel like there's going to be an actual, lore-based reason for that to occur. And I'm really looking forward to learning a little bit more about why that would be. Give me Zhongli and Venti Archon outfits and you will wail probably. Yeah, and those are other outfits that I'm really looking forward to see, like a proper winged Archon Venti and Zhongli and his white robe. That would be really awesome.
Healthy body, healthy mind.
Those would both be really, really cool. In the voice lines, YouTube GJ, thank you. I appreciate it. In the voice lines, is there any difference in personality between the travelers? Or do they just talk about different things in general? I want to say both of the travelers have the same lines. They just deliver them slightly different because obviously two different people voice acted them. But I want to say for the most part, their personalities are, as a protagonist, designed to be the same. Now, the last time I played as Lumine was before the voice acting, the actual traveler lines were voice acted, so you could read them, and at that time they were the same, so there would be no nuance in their delivery because there was no delivery at that time. But since then, I can't say whether or not, because I haven't gotten to hear Lumine's delivery of all those voice lines. But my wife actually does play as Lumine, and I actually could get an opportunity to listen to those that way. And I'm going to make a note of that. And I'll try to do that this week. And maybe revisit this question on the next stream. Let me go ahead and write that down really quick so that I don't forget to do it, though. Listen to Lumine voice lines. So what I'll try to do is listen to the Aether one and then listen to the Lumine one directly after and kind of see if they are different. But I'll need to do a wide comparison and address each of them one by one, I think, to actually really kind of dive into it appropriately. Fish blasting, yes. So to those of you who have Klee, it is weirdly entertaining to actually just fish blast for no reason. There's other characters who can kill the fish even easier, like Ganyu and Mona. You don't even have to kill them, you can just skate on top of the water. But I don't know, for some reason just blasting the fish with Klee actually is fun. And then you get that secondary aspect of waiting for a NPC gene to come chase you and lock you in a prison. Andy is lost at IKEA. You think it'd be interesting if Diluc was a distant descendant to the Pyro Archon and their people. Venti mentioned that Vanessa's people had red hair, were descendants of the Pyro Archon. So yes, they are the Maratan people, who are said to have been descendants in some way or another of the god of war Maratha. I don't think that Maratha is still the Pyro Archon, though, because it's now known to us that only Venti and Zhongli are surviving Archons from the Archon War, so all of the other ones should have been replaced. Now, we don't know for, like, it could still be Maratha now, though, because that conversation between Venti and Vanessa was only about 1,000 years ago, and that was already after the conclusion of the Archon War. So it's possible that Maratha is still around, and that, Diluc is a distant, relation to them. Obviously, with his red hair, it would suggest that connection. So yeah, I would suspect that to be the case. Triforce Rich, what are my highest constellation 5 stars, and would I purposely C6 anyone beside Mona? My highest constellation characters are Albedo, Jean, and Diluc. They're all C3 for 5 stars at the moment. If I had to choose one character other than Mona to C6, it would probably be Ganyu. Because she's already really good, but like she gets even better with more constellations. So if not Ganyu, then maybe Zhongli. Let me double check. I want to say, like, my mind was thinking that there's a really good one at Zhongli at the end. Hang on. Yeah, it would be Zhongli. So I would say either Ganyu or Zhongli, because having him also become a self-sufficient healer for your party and others is really, really, really compelling. I think that would be really, really nice to have. So yeah, it would be either Zhongli or Ganyu. Red K. Yeah, probably. Beidou literally threw her sword far enough to decapitate a Hydra, so no one is safe, even archers. Plus, her perfect counterattack has astronomical damage to begin with. That's true. It does actually do really good damage. My Beidou hasn't really been built effectively for quite some time now, but at some point I will probably, begin to utilize her again. She's a really good pairing with Mona because of the way her elemental burst works. It pretty much turns Mona into like a crazy machine gun of just hydro and electro reactions just constantly. It's pretty crazy. If you ever get the opportunity to do it, I highly recommend it. You don't even have to have Beidou built very well. You really just need to have her, built up enough to where the elemental burst is available. Maybe focus a little bit into the in her talents on the elemental burst so that you get the most out of it, and then you can get good returns from it. You could actually have nothing else leveled up on her, even have kind of like, mediocre to bad gear on her, and still get pretty good returns from that combination. It works kind of like having Mona and Fischl together, but I do think that having Beidou's elemental burst is a little bit better than using Fischl, but Fischl is obviously more reliable and you can do it more often. Yeah, RNG 99 or 999. Yeah, it is one and the same. It's highly suspected that that Himiko Maratha is like, that's a going to be another one of those Honkai Impact references that is going to be coming back at some point in the future. TH, any theories or headcanons about Traveler's personality so far as an Aether main? I think he's really good at reading people based off dialogue options. Also, mostly self-interested. I think that, like Aether and Lumine are both pretty much from the protagonist point, at least at this point. It seems like they're basically both designed to be the same character, so that there's not really any difference in, like, our story. At least at this time. Now, obviously, there's going to be personality differences designed for the two characters based on whether or not they are on your team, or, you know, that they're your playable character, or if they're the other. But it's kind of hard to say for certain how that'll play out in the long term. Oh, he's trying to just reset. Oh, well, he's going to pay for that, because as soon as he reset, he lost his shield. Well, that kind of worked out for me. Do you think they'll give us a free 4-star Dendro character when the element comes out? No, I don't. I don't really think they're going to be giving out very many free characters at all. We do have, you know, in 1.3, a free 4-star character coming out, but since release, that will only be the second free character they're giving out. So when Dendro as an element becomes playable, I wouldn't suspect any of them being free for a little while, at least. Beidou supremacy. No. Beidou. I'm trying to train myself to say that name correctly. It's such a struggle because I was saying it wrong for so long. Never do that. Never say a name wrong for a long, long time, because it's really hard to overcome it and start saying it right afterwards. I do think there's a couple of guardians up here. I'm going to go ahead and... Oh, okay. I'm just going to accidentally take screenshots. Let's do that. Okay, let's see. Like I said, I think there's a guardian or two up here. Yeah, there definitely is. There should be 2 up here. I'm going to kill them really quick for their materials and then resume my artifact farming. Thank you for correcting pronunciation of Beidou. Yeah, I'm working at it. It's rough life. I definitely don't say names wrong and then just, like, continue to be okay with it. Like, if I say it wrong, like, know that I either don't know any better, like I don't know that I'm saying it wrong, or I am actively trying to say it right, and I am just saying it wrong in the moment because I'm used to saying it the other way, and I'm forcing myself to say it right slowly. In my last stream, I mentioned wanting help with German pronunciation. Still interested in that? Red Kai, yes. If you, I guess, if you are some kind of like if you're native German speaking, please reach out to me on my Discord. I would be very interested in some details about proper pronunciation of some of the German words and names, for especially with things regarding Fischl, because so much of that is very different, and as I understand it, even the voice actors are kind of off about how they say it. So yeah, I would be very interested in being able to bring some authenticity to my pronunciation of those specific names and words and places. That would be great. So please, yeah, if you can reach out to me over on the Tavot Historia Discord, I would really appreciate that. Please, if you do, make sure to address yourself as Red K over there, Red Key, or however you're saying your name. Yeah, I would appreciate you doing that. I really would. Thank you. Venti is definitely Wendy. Yeah, Venti is definitely Wendy. They have a very similar appearance, right down to like the little braids that, you know, fade to another color at the bottom. All right, next location is over here, I think. Yes. Do I think we'll ever get a Hydro Claymore character? Oh yeah, for sure. I think we'll definitely see a Hydro Claymore character at some point. I was gonna say I think I already know who it is, but no, I think the one I'm thinking of is gonna end up being a Cryo Claymore instead. But complete speculation. But yeah, I think I'm thinking of Tainsleaf. I suspect he's going to end up being a Claymore character. And I think he's going to be Cryo, not Hydro. But I do think that in time we're going to be seeing, you know, every weapon and elemental combination. And I you know, it's definitely not going to be the case where we only see one character for each representation of each weapon either. Because pretty much every gacha game that I've ever played has multiples in each role. So, you know, you won't just see one character who's like a hydro bow user, for instance. Like, we'll probably see multiples over time. Just like how Ganyu and Diona are both cryo archers. We'll see more. You know who wanted Fischl and got Sucrose instead? Miku. Oof. At Tavot's Historia, it's been 3 times free, 4 stars, Barbara, 2, but 1 is permanent. Fischl, and then you choose your own one. Also, Xiangling was free, so maybe it's 4 or 5. I mean, yeah, I guess you can kind of consider those characters free as well. Like, yeah, you had to fight for Xiangling, but it's not like it was hard. Barbara, you just had to get to AR20 before the next like update, which we had a lot of time for, so that wasn't particularly difficult either. And Noel was the reward from the beginner's banner. So yeah, I guess technically it will be 5 after this one. I just don't suspect that we'll be seeing a free 4-star Dendro character so close to their release whenever that happens is all. And that to me seems like that would just be them throwing away opportunities for money, because everybody will, you know, they'll want that. They'll definitely want to have that new Dendro character, because I'm sure there will be all sorts of hype around it when it happens, and they know that they can make money by it. You know, having a new element after the game's been out 6 or 8 months or a year or whenever we do finally get that element is like, it's just, you know, an opportunity for them to print money pretty much. So yeah, I could definitely I wouldn't expect it to be free, not right away anyways. Do I hope we will get them at some point? Yeah, I do, but I wouldn't expect it right away. Shields are the worst. Okay, there we go. Let's go ahead and just snipe these other ones out real quick. Okay, there was the only other one here, and I already looted that one. Wendy equal Venti was female, so they're the same. Yeah, pretty much. Hell, their names even are they sound kind of the same. Or, I mean, really, like, it could be easy to, like, hear somebody say Venti, and then from a distance, like, if you have no context for any character other than Wendy, you could just hear it as Wendy. So, yeah, like, there's much similarity between those two characters visually and through naming. Fischl is fish in German, so literally Fischl's name is fish. Is it really? I honestly did not know that. That's kind of surprising and hilarious, because I usually just call her fish for shorthand when, like, I'm talking to my wife or something. So that's pretty hilarious. Beneficial. That's a good one. I haven't heard that before. I like it. Do I think Kenria will introduce a new element, and that maybe Dainsleif will wield that new element? I think Dainsleif is going to kind of have his own thing going on. I don't know that, like, I don't know. That's a tough one. Because it's going to be so far down the road. I would not expect us to actually see Dainsleif for quite some time yet, even as an adversarial type character. Like, I don't think they're going to be introducing him into the direct storyline for a while. He, to me, like, he says he, you know, wields a power from another world, so I don't really know. Like, I suspect his control over, you know, his power will be an element of some kind. I don't think. Maybe it could be. I don't know. Like, it really could go any way. I suspect his powers could be very much like another character in the game who has very unusual powers that are not quantifiable by any of the elements, if you follow me. And that's all I'll say on that matter for this time being. Venti is literally pronounced Wendy in Chinese. That's true. That's actually something I had heard as well. Did I get all the ones in this area? I think I did. I don't think I passed any of them. I think there might be... No, I got it. Okay. Okay, continuing down the road here. I should have just teleported to the other thing. Yeah, even though it's close, it'll give me height advantage at least. Head Tavot Historia. My team is Klee, Ganyu, Mona, and Zhongli. Do I need a healer? If so, who do you recommend? Who should I replace? So it depends on the application. IBK or IB Kingpin. If you like with that team comp, really in a lot of aspects you probably would not need a healer. Ganyu can literally kill everything from so far away that in a lot of cases you will not require a healer. When they do get close to you, you can probably just swap to Zhongli and generate a shield depending on how you have him built and probably still not take damage. So I would say in an exploration type environment, you probably won't need a healer in most situations. But in specific instances like Spiral Abyss, against specific domains or bosses, you may find yourself still needing a healer. And in that event, if you have access to Jean, I would say Jean. I would bounce Zhongli to put Jean in that party because she is a really great healer with a fantastic "oh crap, I'm gonna die" button. And she synergizes super well with Klee. I can tell you that effectively from experience because Jean is my chosen healer for this party. When I need a healer, Ganyu goes away, Jean gets inserted in the slot, and then, you know, pretty much everybody's kind of invincible at that point. My other party, where Zhongli is my primary DPS, doesn't really need a healer in most cases either. In fact, I can't remember a time where I actually swapped one of my characters out to give it a healer because 3 of the 4 characters generate shields. So it's kind of like one of those unique situations where I just don't need heals on that team because I so infrequently ever take damage. But on a team with 2 squishy units, 3 squishy units, really even Ganyu is pretty squishy, you'll find yourself needing a healer in some instances. And for that, I would definitely say if you have Jean, use her for that. But if you don't need her and you're getting by with shields in most cases, then there's no real reason to swap it. Especially since Zhongli can actually deal really good damage through his elemental bursts and his steals and stuff too. Fischl, okay. Fischl actually is a German surname that means little fish dealer. So not quite fish, but close enough. That is even more interesting. Little fish dealer. I'm learning stuff tonight, guys. I like it. Just call Fischl by her name, Amy. Yeah, I mean, I do that sometimes too. And one of the people who handles Chinese translation stuff for me, Cheryl, over on my Discord, calls her Amy pretty much exclusively. The other name for beneficial pairing is fishnet. That's a good one. I also like that one. Dainsleif is 200-year-older Aether. That's one of the theories that I actually really don't like. I don't suspect that Dainsleif is Aether at all. There's too many things different about these characters, and like the whole like theory of like the Sustainer being Lumine from the future and Dainsleif from the future is purely predicated on the idea that you are playing as Aether, and it no longer works if you've chosen Lumine. And so, like, the fact that you were encountered by, you know, the possible future version of Lumine at the beginning, regardless of who you've chosen, kind of, to me, busts that theory right away. Could they still make it work? Sure, but it would be kind of rife with plot hole right away just because of the choice of what character you pick. It would be really hard for them like to substantiate that. If they wanted a, you know, that specific kind of thing to actually play out, then they would have needed to make the choice of which character you are playing as happen before the Sustainer actually encounters you. At which point, if you picked Lumine, then Dainsleif would be the one to show up and, like, strike you down. So, That's how I think that would have had to have worked out. That's, to me, the only way that could be. Do I think Zhongli, Mona, Keqing, and Jean is a good team composition at AR-47? Yeah, I think that there's definitely good synergy there for those characters. The only thing I would change is because you have both Zhongli and Jean, you kind of don't really need both. You could actually replace Zhongli with or not Zhongli, but you could, like, if you find yourself not needing heals in a lot of situations, you could replace Jean with another Geo character, pick up Geo Resonance, and get more damage out of your Mona and Keqing. Or you could replace Zhongli with another Anemo character and get better movement speed, better stamina management, and reduce cooldowns for your Mona and your Keqing. You could also, replace Zhongli with, either another Hydro character, but I don't really like Hydro Resonance, or you could replace Zhongli or Jean with another Electro character, but again, that's going to be kind of more like an Elemental Mastery kind of party, and that's, I don't know, Elemental Mastery to me in a lot of ways is strictly just worse than most of the other stats in the game right now, so I don't know if I would really recommend doing that. So I would really say, if anything, replacing Zhongli or Jean with another character that gives you a resonance might actually help boost your damage output as you continue to progress through the game. But certainly, you would not have any issues there. Victor Gill, how's my team using Zhongli? That team actually still works really, really well. I haven't been using it much lately, but since you mentioned it, I can swap up to it for a little bit. Why is Ganyu on this team? She shouldn't be on this team. That's supposed to be Fischl. Oh, I bet you I swapped her in because my Fischl's kind of in a flux state right now because I've been actually changing her build around. Although she's a little bit closer than she used to be to completion now that I've actually got her in the correct artifact sets that I wanted her to be in. So she should be getting a little closer to like a completed build state, but I'm still having to invest materials in her, which is kind of a slow process anyways. There might be a connection between Paimon and the Sustainer. I actually kind of suspect that there might be a connection between Paimon and the Sustainer. But to what extent, I'm not really sure. I think it's very possible that something happened 500 years ago after she showed up and ruined everything that could have resulted in the Sustainer being split into several different, states of existence. And so we just haven't been, given full detail on that, and I don't even think that Paimon's aware that happened, if that's what it is. So it could be like one of those situations where like different aspects of the Sustainer's personality were then split into different beings, where the kind aspects of the Sustainer were split into Paimon, and there could be other entities floating around Tavot that represent her other aspects, and we just haven't encountered them. All right, anyways, I need to go over here now. Do I think that Tavot is a false world? No, I don't think Tavot is a false world. The idea of the false sky, I think, is not literal. I think it's more like the idea that the sky is false, like they're lying to everyone, I think is what they're really getting at there. And this is actually something, again, that's coming up in the Fury video that I'm working on right now. This is, again, another one of those things that I'm really excited to share with everybody. I really can't wait until this video is done so that we can discuss it at length in future streams as well. I'm having a lot of fun writing this one. It's really exploring some ideas that I've been sitting on for like almost 2 months now. And I'm so glad to be done with that mechanics project that I was working on for a while. So that I can finally get back into lore content, because it's what I have more passion for. I mean, I really do have passion for the mechanics aspect of this game, and I really do enjoy that. But the story of this game is written in such a compelling way that the lore it's a more creative, more enjoyable aspect of the game for me. Saritsa is probably the other twin. I also don't think that's likely. She's been around too long. If you haven't yet tried to get the achievement where you use 5-star characters' ults in like 10 seconds, I feel like I probably already have gotten that. Is Raiden Mei the Bal from Honkai Impact? Well, this is one of the reasons that a lot of people are expecting that to be the case. Whether or not that is actually going to be the case is a totally different matter, but a lot of people suspect that that will be the case. We don't have any way to substantiate that right now, though. This game is very time-consuming, but you're all for it. Yeah, I mean, I feel that. I mean, once you get to, like AR-40, AR-45, you've finished all of the story aspects of the game, you can pretty much do the thing, like the bare minimum things that you need to do daily in the game in about an hour a day, maybe hour and a half. And all of a sudden it no longer like dominates like your time, which to me as a content creator for this game is good because, I can pretty much knock out, in an hour or 2, an hour and a half, all the things that I want to do on most days. And then I, can go back to focusing on content generation, which is ideal. Kiana Kazlana is Unknown God who came through Celestia 500 years ago and ruined everything. Yeah, I do suspect that's also a possibility. But we also, there's other aspects to, all of this because they have established some visual similarities between several of the archons or god-type figures in this game with characters from Honkai Impact, but they are not necessarily those characters. But it could be, something more akin to this idea of the Arc project from Honkai Impact, where they are not literally these characters, but they are instead the preserved genomes of these characters and have basically been reborn. And I think that might actually be more likely what they are, but again, until we've gotten more development in the story, we won't know for sure, but it sure is fun to theorize about it. Do I think Xiao has any previous connection to Venti a long time ago? Yeah, I do. So we know that there was some kind of an event where Xiao was rescued by someone, and it seems more and more likely at this point that actually could have been Xiao that was, or Venti that rescued him. And I'm hoping if that is the case, we'll find out when we get into Xiao's main quest line here after the release of 1.3 in the very near future. Where? I know there's another artifact around here somewhere. I think it's right down here, yeah. Paimon is the Saritsa theory confirmed. That would definitely be the twist that nobody saw coming. That's for sure. Oh. Freaking ice slimes, get out of here. Do I have enough resin to run a domain yet? Yeah, I do. Once I finish these artifacts, I'm gonna go probably run the Heart of Depth domain once really quick to try and pick up a few things from over there, because I still am trying to get some more cryo artifacts and such as well. The grind never ends. It's never going to end. Probably shouldn't expect it to either. You find it funny that Dainsleif totally did not care about Asael almost destroying Liyue, but Albedo he will not let out of his sight. I feel like there's a reason for that, though, and I feel like it's because there's this history of another alchemist who, was named Gold, who basically laid waste to, a whole, territory. He or she may have been responsible for the destruction of Kenraya, possibly. We don't know for sure, but it's possible. And as a result, he may be fearful that, that if another alchemist is allowed to, experience that level of growth again, that much more destruction could be caused than what we destroyed by Asael. Asael seems like he's, like a water hydra. He may be. There's a crimson agate here that I haven't gotten. Where is it? I guess is it above me or below me? Oh, weird. I haven't seen very many of those on the map in a while. I can't believe there's one nearby me that I haven't gotten. But yeah, so also Asile seems to be bound to the ocean. Like, I don't think that he can leave the ocean. Maybe he can flood an area or something and travel further, you know, from his current confines or something. Who knows? But there may be other factors that resulted in him not being interested in doing anything about that character specifically. There's a chest over here. I need to grab that. Nice, nice. Definitely surprised to have found that up here too. Where is this other artifact site? I feel like it's supposed to be like right around here, but I can't seem to put eyes on it. Or am I going to continue the character lore videos? Absolutely. IB Kingpin, I have intent to return to character lore videos after the theory video that I'm working on right now. I've actually got a big series of videos that I'm gonna do, and again, you know, this is gonna be one of those things where, like, because you guys are in my streams, I'll just go ahead and tell you, you know, what my plans are, which is I've got a series of character lore videos that I'm gonna do. They're still gonna be in the same format that they've been, where it's focused on one character, but some of these characters' stories kind of intersect each other. And so this series is going to be the siblings of Mondstadt, because there's several pairs of siblings in Mondstadt. So it's going to be something like 6 videos worth of character lore videos. And I'm really excited to actually jump into that series of videos. So I'm not going to say the characters who it is, because I'm not going to throw everything, but if you know anything about the story of the game thus far, it should be pretty obvious the characters that I'm talking about. So yes, I'm definitely going to be returning to that. ClayTuber super chat, when? I don't know, when? If Traveler wanted to go to Honkai Impact World through Celestial Atlas, but unknown god block her path, what are my thoughts? I mean, at this point, I think that the sustainer was pretty invested in just blocking your ability to travel anywhere. So, like, I don't think the sustainer would be particularly okay with that in any meaningful way. Where is this? It's got to be below me, and I'm just overlooking it or something. Yeah, it's got to be right here. Yeah, it was right here. I knew it. Cool, I'm glad I found this. Definitely need to use all of these to level up some artifacts tonight after I finish this route. I'm almost near the end of it now. I think there's only a few more locations left on this farming route now. You can actually run through this pretty quick, but since I'm, you know, going through the chat and answering questions, it kind of slows down the process, but that's fine. I am going to be wrapping up the stream, however, in about 10 minutes, so if you guys have any questions that you haven't gotten out, now would be the time to go ahead and throw them at me. At Tavot Historia, do I think C1 Ganyu is worth it? Yes. I think if there was any one constellation that you would definitely want for Ganyu, C1 is the one. You could kind of take or leave a lot of the other ones. C1 is really, really useful, though, so I would definitely recommend getting C1 if Ganyu is a character that you're invested in building. If you're not really invested in building your Ganyu, then, I mean, yeah, you could leave it. But if you are really interested in building her and establishing her as a proper damage dealer on one of your parties, then, yeah, I would definitely recommend snatching up C1 if you have the means to do so. Yeah, Danesleaf either knows how powerful Albedo is or what alchemy can do in general. Thank you. Yeah, he definitely... He seems to like have like kind of like a healthy fear of the capabilities of alchemy. So, you know, he's content to leave Albedo alone so long as he doesn't misstep and get into anything that's bad. But I mean, even Albedo has fears that he may be capable of losing it and destroying everything. So, you know, like, he seems to have kind of like this awareness of that possibility, but continues to explore alchemy regardless. There is some clue that suggests Cloud Retainer have human form and can become a playable character. What are your thoughts on that? I've seen that theory, and I've seen sadly from the, leak stuff, what character people thinks that may be. I think it's a compelling thought, but until we know a little bit more about it, I don't really want to build on it too much, especially since it's, basically relative just to leaked content at this time. But I think that could be really cool, and if that ends up being the case, then yeah, I'd actually be pretty excited about that. It's confirmed that Dainsleif is a resident of Tavot, right? Because I always theorized he was a traveler like Aether. Yoshi, I don't think it's actually confirmed anywhere that he is a resident of Tavot. In fact, I actually believe he is a traveler like Aether and Lumine. And my theory video that I'm working on dives really deep into that. So again, really excited to share that with everybody. So many questions tonight about Dainsleif that I feel so bad that I have to keep dodging those questions because I'm working on a video for them right now, and I don't want to. I've got so many thoughts in my head that are just dancing around right now about it because I'm working on this, like compiling my thoughts for the theory that I've been wanting to make for almost 2 months now. And I'm, like I said, I'm really excited to share with everybody, but I don't want to dive too deep into it in this. I don't want to, because I just don't want to give away the whole thing. What do I think these heavenly principles, the sustainer of heavenly principles, is upholding? So I think the idea of the sustainer of heavenly principles, I should say, is regarding God worship, primarily. And I think the celestial overseers are very concerned with those who are not worshiping the gods as they intend. And so if they are, worshiping the gods, then fine, they're whatever. They'll let people in Tavot live and suffer in their world and whatever, and give, certain people who have suffered enough visions, but everybody else they just ignore. But if you don't worship the gods as intended, then the the sustainer of heavenly principles has something to say about that. And again, this is another question. I'm covering that topic very deeply in the theory that I am currently working on. So again, another question I have to dodge to some degree. Oh my god, I'm so sorry that I keep having to dodge these questions, but you guys are uncannily asking questions that are so tied deep into the core of this theory video that I'm working on, and I just don't want to give away all of my thoughts on it yet. But like I said, hopefully by this time next week, that video will already be out, and we can discuss all of this stuff and why I think that stuff to all of our heart's content. Zhao never again take plunge damage. Yeah, it's nice that supposedly he can pretty much plunge from any height and take no damage. That's pretty cool. Pretty handy mechanic for Xiao, for sure. You hit hard pity at 82 wishes for C0 Ganyu, but got C1 in 28 wishes. What dumb luck. Actually, yeah, I had a similar situation happen with my Ganyu as well. I can actually tell you because I have tally marks for it. I got my first Ganyu at exactly 70. I got C1 at 30, and then C2 at 70 again. No. It was at 70 again. So yeah, my C1 came at 30. So kind of a similar situation, yeah. Would Albedo, Chi-Chi, Diluc, and possibly Xiao be a good team matchup? Well, it depends on who you're intending to have as your primary DPS. It seems to me like probably Xiao would be the primary DPS in that party. You have Albedo, who is probably the single best support user for a melee type primary DPS. So I think right there you already have a really good foundation. Chi-Chi is a great healer for melee type characters, so I think that's a good pairing. The only character I would recommend probably dropping in that situation would be Diluc. And not because he's bad, but only because he doesn't really add anything to that group. I And I mean, I guess he does add one thing to that group, which is he is like the spoiler of all shields, which is definitely something that you need. But there are other characters who might do that and add more to your group at the same time. Especially if you're able to pick up any kind of resonance for increased damage output, that's always ideal. For instance, if you have access to a character like Venti, you could pick up Animo Resonance, and then also, you know, use Venti to generate, you know, Venerer debuff to increase the damage of all your characters simultaneously, which would be really nice. One could also argue that you could just build your Xiao to have Venerer as well, and then continue to get, you know, swirl damage from his E on most of the enemies that you encounter, and then use Dilute to punish them, which would probably be the best way to do that if you were going to keep Diluc in that party. Quote-unquote next video. I mean, I'm intending pretty much for that video to release this week sometime. Or rather, I should say this coming week sometime. I'm still like in the like script craft portion of the video, but once I jump into the like recording, editing portion of the video, I usually have such a good mental picture of how I want to arrange things after that point, and you know, through the process of script writing, that it comes together within a few days of that. But the script writing process is always the longest portion for me, because I usually spend many hours writing the first run of it, and then, you know, I spend another couple you know, day or two, you know, doing revisions to it to make sure that it flows the way I intended it. Because, you know, if it doesn't, then it will not be as effective. But that is currently my intent. What if the unknown god isn't necessarily Kiana, but the part of the Hersher of the Void that was purged from Kiana at the end of the final lesson in the Honkai Impact 3 animation? Well, that certainly is possible as well. I think that there's a couple of reasons to think that that could be the case. And I kind of lean more towards like the idea that she isn't really like the same Hersher of the Void. Like, she's not literally the same person, but she's some fragment of that person, be it like a preserved portion of her genome, or yeah, like you're saying, like a fragment, like a severed fragment or portion of the Hersher of the Void. I certainly think that that's probably a more likely possibility, because I honestly subscribe to this idea that the Sustainer of Heavenly Principles was her own person and was not necessarily even born of the world of Tavot. So, and I think there's a lot of reasons for us to think that. And I, you know, again, this is something that I do touch briefly on in my next video, so I don't want to, again, dive so deeply into it. So many questions tonight, and like, this is killing me that I keep having to like cut short my thought process on it. But then after this next video comes out, I'm gonna be, you know, diving into so much of it, and happy to talk about it. It is hinted in a bulletin board in Wangshu Inn that Cloud Retainer has taken a liking to the Traveler and is eager to be at her side. That justifies the possibility that she'll be playable. I might have overlooked that one. I think that's actually a really interesting idea. And like I said, if she does end up being playable, I think that would be really cool. You're saving 3 multis for Hotel since you're at 62 pity. You might be waiting a while. Zhao was made for food delivery event meta. I mean, maybe. When you don't have the chance to answer a question, which I don't blame you for, would you rather us not repeat it in the chat? I am often tempted to do so. So, I mean, a lot of the times if I don't answer a question, it's just because, you know, like, sometimes keeping up with the chat is difficult whilst also still trying to continue playing the game. You know, kind of pushes multitasking to, you know, the limit to a certain degree. So, you know, sometimes certain lines of the chat just get, you know, pushed off, and I don't get my opportunity to actually discuss a specific thing that was mentioned or asked about, or or maybe I end up a little bit too long-winded answering one question, and then it gets scrolled off during that period of time. So, yeah, I don't necessarily mind it being repeated in the chat at all, just so long as it's not spammed repeatedly so much that nobody else can get their question in. What do I think about the 5 yakshas? Who do I think is alive besides Zhao Alatus? So we don't know the names of the other yakshas, but if I had to take a guess based on what we saw in the animation, they seemed to indicate that the Electro one was the one that turned evil, and the others turned to madness or turned against each other. So I feel like if one is likely to have survived and gone into self-preservation, I feel like it would not be one of the ones who went to madness, but rather the one that turned evil. I feel like he would be the one who, would have been likely to survived and continued on. So that is the one I suspect is also alive. He disappeared. Nobody knows where he is, and maybe, just maybe, we'll see him come up in the story at some point in the near future, but that could also be an introduction to some kind of tragedy coming, because, any kind of a showdown between Zhao and one of his former friends, former yakshas, would probably be a painful reunion for him, especially if he is now evil and forced to kill him. That would be pretty rough for Xiao. He's had a bad go of things already as it is. Having been exposed to so much violence definitely took a toll on him anyways. Well, that is the end of the artifact route, finally. I'm going to go ahead and do that domain I need to run really quick, too. And then after I finish the domain, I'm probably going to wrap it up for the evening. What if Paimon is just an early life stage or whatever traveler or the unknown god is? Interesting, like the idea of like whatever the sustainer of heavenly principles is, like Paimon is basically the same but could grow to be the same. That's an interesting thought. I guess that's something I hadn't really considered. I don't know, like, I guess that could be, like a direction they could go. I don't know exactly how that would progress. I mean, I guess that would be another possible instance where, at some point down the road, we could be seeing Paimon unleash some kind of really, unparalleled and amazing power that would be, like a really cool reveal for the story. I suspect at some point in time in the story, we are going to be seeing Paimon do something really, powerful and surprising that, unleashing an ability that she didn't even know she had kind of situation. I'd be really surprised if we don't get that kind of a payoff from her at some point. They put a lot of time into developing her as like a, a quirky traveler, or not traveler, but a quirky companion and guide for the traveler, but not much else right now. But they've also built kind of this air of mystery around her, and I feel like they've done that intentionally. They're kind of keeping us strung along a little bit with that air of mystery, and I think that there will definitely be a compelling payoff for that at some point in the future. Well, that domain's as easy as ever. And then we have these Zhongli buffs coming soon that should make this domain even easier. That'll be really, really nice. Oh, hey, 2 of these. Let's see. Energy recharge has a crit rate, but energy recharge on one of these is not something I usually look for. Defense, so also not really anything usable, but at least it's more fodders. Alright, so I am going to wrap up the stream here in a couple minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 2 more questions before I close it up for the evening. Oh, well, you could ask your questions in another stream. Yeah, I mean, if you have more questions about like what's going on between like what I think is going on with Dainsleif and stuff after my new video comes out, I will be all about answering those questions. So, but right now, because I'm still in the process of writing the script and still considering all of these moving pieces, I am still trying to lock in exactly how my own headcanon of this is working. And so I could give you an answer, and it might be different than what comes out in my video, because I'm still working on making sure I understand this, because there's a lot going on. Now, most of it I have a solid idea of what I want, or what I think is happening, and what I want to convey to all of you, but sometimes you learn, new information as that script progresses, and things can change. So I don't want to, kind of like lead you in one direction and then, a few days later lead you in another. So like, that's one of the reasons why I don't want to get too much into it until that's happened. You have a feeling that the Paimon reveal will be a major shock. Yeah, I definitely think that when Paimon has a power reveal, it's definitely going to be a change in pace for the game. And it may be a turning point for future content at that point. The reason why you want Diluc is for melt with Chi-Chi, also ores, and need ores. Okay, yeah, that kind of makes sense. And I get that, like, you get that 2x damage reaction. So are you then, I guess you're kind of the concept that you have for that team is, I'm assuming Diluc then is your primary DPS. So you're using a 2x reaction situation to maximize his damage potential, which is good. I think that that's a solid composition option there. And then if you're using Xiao in that party, I would then recommend using him as a Venerer generator. So you could, light those enemies on fire first. Get them like with the first stack of Diluc's E, swap to Xiao, Venerer them to, generate a swirl and reduce their resistance to fire by a significant amount. And then swap to Chi-Chi, get your cryo reaction going, and then hit them with a melt reaction that does even more damage. I think that's going to be probably one of the most potent ways to extract additional damage from your Diluc in that combination. And then, yeah, I think that the 4 characters that you mentioned within that confine is a great way to do it. And this is one of the things you need. Resonance in order to maximize your damage opportunities in just about any party. But one of the ways that you can kind of get around needing resonance is to have an Animo character in your party using Venerer. That is the way to get around the need for resonance. Otherwise, you basically either need that constant resonance buff or a Venerer debuffer to maximize your output. If you can have both, all the better. But sometimes it's hard to have both. Because you end up giving your team obvious weak points that you can't work around. So yeah, I think if you were to use that team setup, it would work great. But I would recommend going with a 4-piece Venerer on your Xiao if you were going to do that. That will solidify him as a secondary DPS, so you'll probably only want to use him when his elemental burst is up, and swap to him strategically to generate those Venerer debuff swirls to make your melt reactions better. I think maybe my chat froze. Hang on. Let's see here. Tavot, what is your opinion? Who is the most underrated 4-star DPS, and who would you most like to see their alternate form? That's a good question.
Looks pretty rock and roll to me.
Oh, let's see. Most underrated 4-star character. Most underrated 4-star character. Now, I mean, there's a lot of underrated 4-star characters. There are some 4-star characters who I definitely have seen people definitely, revere. Characters such as Bennett, everybody knows he's actually good. For a long time, there was a meme that he's just a minor, but everybody knows he's really useful. There's lots of people who think Sucrose is amazing, and I kind of agree. Same with Ningguang. I would say there's plenty of people who know that Xingqiu is really good as well. I would say a character that I've seen consistently underutilized and underappreciated would actually be Xinyan. I know I use her a lot, but I really haven't seen a whole lot of people put her to use. And that's a shame because she actually can bring a lot to a party. Although I feel like For me, it's a little skewed because I do have the Unforged on her. She's built with Bolide. Like, she's in the most ideal scenario for me. And it helps to bring out her potential. Like, I had this kind of unique opportunity where I could build a team around Zhongli, but also build a team around her as well, like simultaneously. So it kind of, worked for me to be able to maximize both of them. And when I can finally finish building her properly, like actually maximizing her artifacts properly, she's actually going to be even better than she is now, which I'm really excited to do because this party's already quite good. So I would have to say, if I had to pick a most consistently underrated 4-star, I would say either Xinyan or Kaia. Kaia, actually, of the starter characters, because of his modifiers for his normal attacks, even though they're slow, is probably one of the only starter characters, aside from Animo Traveler, who can effectively be built as a primary DPS. But also Xinyan can be built as a primary DPS too. These are flexible characters. But also Kaia has the ability to, use on-tap cryo every 6 seconds. That works a lot like Diluc does for Pyro. But, but it's a little bit more surgical. It's, in a 45-degree cone ahead of him. But you can still get really good use out of that. And a lot of people can, because he's a starter character, they're just like, oh, Kaia, whatever, get this guy out of here, that kind of situation. Obviously, Amber is very underrated, but I think even Amber is less underrated than Kaia for whatever reason. So I think more people are willing to admit that Amber is useful than are willing to admit that Kaia is useful. So yeah, that's kind of where I feel about, or what I feel about that particular situation. Anyways, I'm going to wrap it up here for the evening because I've gone about a half an hour past where I usually would, and then my voice is actually starting to get pretty blown out for the evening. Invicta Umi, actually on the bottom left corner of the screen right now is my Mona build, so if you want to pause the stream or rewind it, you can see exactly how I have my Mona built out. I actually have that all lined up right there. Anyways, so yeah, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the stream for here for the evening. I, again, want to thank everybody who joined the stream tonight. I really do appreciate it. You guys are awesome. If you haven't yet had the opportunity to go ahead and drop a like on the video, please do that. It really helps out the channel. It really helps the YouTube algorithm help me out. If you haven't subscribed, please do that too. That also really helps out a lot. And thanks again for coming to the stream tonight. You guys have a good night.